like, no, what are we talking about here? Like, I said, in 2 weeks, you can't even legally have this conversation with me because she's 18.
Yeah.
So the doctor was like, well, you're not thinking about yourself right now. Or, no, he said, you're not thinking about your daughter right now. You're thinking about yourself. And I said, no, I'm thinking about my daughter. He said, no,
Mhm.
you're thinking about yourself because if you were thinking about your daughter, you would think about her quality of life and what that's going to look like. He said, you have an athlete in there who will never walk, never run, never
Wow.
skip, never talk, never eat, never breathe on her own. And I'm like, so I have $1 million baby.
Mm.
Because you know the movie Million
Mhm.
Dollar Baby?
Yeah,
Mm.
everyone.
So I'm like, I got $1 million baby. I'm like, cool. I'm not gonna kill her though.
Yeah.
So I went in there and told her, like, baby girl, they said you're never gonna walk, you're never gonna breathe, you're never gonna eat. Like, do you want to do the surgery? And she said, yeah, mom. And I said, okay, then we're gonna fight. So
Mm.
when she came out of her surgeries, she was so high on the hospital drugs. They had like 5 lock boxes. Because if you go to the hospital now and you're like on all the hardcore drugs, they keep them in lock boxes. So I'm asking, like, what are all these lock boxes? What are all these drugs? And it got to the point where physical therapy is trying to come by and engage with her, and she's knocked out. So I told the doctors, I said, look, bottom line is I could get my kid just as high as you, minus all the side effects.
Yeah.
Like, I can get her high and she can go to sleep and be in peace. And when I say, hey, baby girl, wake up, she's going to wake up. I
Yeah.
said, my side effects are happy, sleepy, with a slight chance of vomiting
Mhm.
and, maybe some uncontrollable laughter.
Mhm.
So I got on the phone with the doctor, video chatted, got her medically scripted.
Yeah.
So when we were in the Bay Area, it was fine. I was putting Royal Dab syrup in her feeding tube. And then they said that the feeding tube needed to come out because it was no longer serving its purpose, that her body started to heal around the feeding tube.
Yeah.
So they're like, we got to do a swallow test. So they did a swallow test and they're like, okay, she can swallow. And I'm like, okay, I motherfucker said my baby
Yeah.
would never eat again, but
Yeah.
she about to eat some pudding.
Yeah.
So then the guy comes in to do her breathing with her one day and he's looking and he's like, do that thing again. And I look over and I'm like, what
Mm.
did she do? He said, she's breathing with her diaphragm. He said, did someone tell
Wow.
you that she'll never breathe again on her own? I said, yeah, the doctor who wanted me to kill her. He said, no. When that machine goes off, it's because she's breathing on her own and it's fighting the machine. That's what's setting it off, and everyone comes rushing in.
Yeah.
I said, what? So he coaches her to breathe on her own. And he's like, you feel that? He's holding on her body. He's like, you feel that? And she's like, yeah. He's like, got you breathing. You do that every day. Every day you do that. He said, when these nurses tell you stop doing that, you're setting off the machines, you breathe even harder.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm putting full spectrum, which is where you take the whole entire marijuana plant, you grind it up into a fine oil. It's called full spectrum. I was putting that tincture under her tongue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whenever you want to hit the bloodstream right away, you go under your tongue or on your tongue. So giving it to her by mouth and in feeding tube every time they would want to come in to do their medicine.
Yeah.
I would say she can't have nothing stronger than Tylenol. So when she left the hospital, she left on nothing stronger than Tylenol. She was on 100% THC and CBD. And so when she had passed away, um, it hurt. It hurt a lot because
Mm.
they said that her insides were pristine. So it made her a perfect donor. Like, so she donated her heart, she donated her lungs, she donated um, her kidneys, her liver. There's some part in her eyes she had donated. I allowed him to take some stem cells from her that they use to build cartilage for the baby's hearts when they're born
Yeah.
and they don't have
Wow.
that cartilage.
Wow.
So I was like, if my daughter could have said to, pull this part out of me to save the babies, I was
Mm.
like, she would have definitely did that. So I got a lot of time with her that I shouldn't have. Like, we were skating on borrowed time for sure.
Mm.
So whenever I get mad, I think about uh So I never pressed her to see like did she see heaven or anything. But I asked her one day, like,
Yeah.
you know, uh like were you okay? Or because I was like, when you're in the hospital, you told the people you saw dad and grandma. Because when they want to figure out if you got brain problems or not, they'll come and ask you about your life. Right.
Mm.
So they'll go your whole life and then 10 years, 5 years, the week of the accident, and then the accident itself.
Mm.
And she was able to recall everything. So when she got to the part where she's counting how many times the truck is flipping and she flew out, she's like, 6, 7. Yep, it flipped 7 times. Then I flew out the window.
Oh.
And the lady was like,
Oh.
and you remember all that? And she was like, yeah. She said, when I hit the ground, though, it didn't really hurt because my dad and my grandma were there. So I'm
Wow.
looking at her tripping because I'm
Wow.
knowing she's out with
Yeah.
friends. I'm knowing my baby daddy is murdered. I'm knowing my grandma has passed away. So she's like, yeah, dad was there and grandma was there. So I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, we didn't really talk about that. I'm like, you gotta talk to dad. She's like, yeah, I had conversations with him. I'm like, what did you guys talk about? She said, well, we talked. She said, but I wanted to know, like, am I going with you, dad? And he said, no. He said that I don't get to go yet. It's not my time. She
Mm.
was like, he said that he said, meaning God had told my baby daddy to tell my daughter, it's not your time because your mom couldn't handle losing you like this. On the side of the road, on a freeway, in the middle of the night, she would not be able to handle this.
Mm.
And so you get to stay.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So yeah, and then when she first went lethargic and had to go back to the hospital, I told her, I said, baby, I don't know. Matter of fact, I know I can never pull your fucking plug. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna do that.
Mm.
And she looked at me and she says, Mom, you won't have to make that choice, Mom. I'll make that for you. Me and my daughter are like,
Mm.
you're gonna be in a coma, kid.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to make those choices. And she said, no, Mom. She said, you'll know when I go because I'll be the butterfly that lands on your nose.
Oh.
And I said, kid, you're going to be so happy to finally be able to move your body. I said, you won't be doing no landing,
Yeah.
baby girl. You going to fly. I said, I believe
Yeah.
you'll fly in front of me, get my attention. So the last time she went to the hospital, I told my son, I said, you out here clowning around. Your sister's in there fucking dying, woo woo. And it was just too hard for us to get into the hospital. So it's like I felt like things were going on. And then when I said it to my son, my mom was like, why would you say that? And she's like, don't say that. And then it's like, it gets so quiet. Like you could hear the pin drop. And I look over at my truck and I see this big ass orange and black butterfly come out.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
and it flies in front of me. It flies around my son, flies around my mom. And then I'm like crying, screaming. I'm like, do you see that? And then I'm like, she's gone, Mom. I'm like, I'm gonna go in that hospital and they're gonna tell me my daughter's dead. And my mom was like, don't say that. Stop saying that. It's not
Yeah.
true. And I was like, Mom, that butterfly was my daughter. And she's not here no more because she promised I would never have to make that choice. And she'll make it for me. She'll let me know she's not here no more. I said, because my biggest fear would be them stories where you hear someone in a coma for 20 years and then they wake up.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
there was no coming back this time. What happened was she had woke up and had a seizure that sparked high blood pressure that set off a brain aneurysm. So they didn't want to do the surgery because parts of her brain that were never supposed to come in contact with fluid were literally saturated in blood. So they were like, we could tell you for sure, she's never gonna eat, she's never gonna drink, she's the kid you know is gone. And the only thing keeping her heart beating right now is the machine. So her whole life she would get in hella trouble. This kid gave me a run for my money with the school districts. But every time people would say, we're gonna make an exception. They would say,
Yeah.
Felicia, normally we'd be expelling somebody for what your baby did, but for little Felicia, we're gonna make the exception.
Mm.
And when she got hurt, she passed away in 2020. So as we know, the world was shut down. No one was going in hospitals.
It was in Sacramento.
Yeah. even the chaplain who came in to do the final prayer or whatever, or be there, even she was astonished when she walked in the room and saw how many people were in there. And she was like, my mom just passed away 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't allowed in the room.
Wow.
And so I'm like, yeah, the
Yeah.
doctors made an exception for my daughter.
Oh.
So yeah, so she got to have a lot of family there with her all the way up until the end. So when I get really mad, really down, I think about the time I had with her that I shouldn't have had. And I think like, like how rare is that
Yeah.
God gives your kid a second chance, even if it's just for a little bit.
Yeah.
But that second chance came from God. And
Mhm.
it's borrowed time. So a lot of people tell me to prepare myself that a lot of quadriplegics, they don't live long. It's just the complications in the body. So I try to hold on to that I gotta get a message from my baby daddy. I mean, not really. It wasn't a message for me, it's for her, but it's for me too. So and then I did a lot of activism and protesting when she first passed away. I was so pissed off at the system. I still am. So I held marches at the Board of Supervisors office. We'd gather there, march to the state capitol, and then I would have like guest speakers come, and
Yeah.
we would talk about, families' rights and CPS abuse and what you do to protect your kids, and
Yeah.
things that you have to by law comply with versus things you don't have to comply
Yeah.
with because it's not a law.
Yeah.
What they're doing is not legal.
So what would you like to see changed? I know you've been talking about how they don't even have auditors to be audited.
Yes, that is the biggest thing. Is they're not audited. So for years, um, I would call California whistleblowers hotline, and I would say, I have my kids, but the foster care parent is still getting money.
Yeah.
And I'm getting billed child support. I can't go get welfare because according to the system, I don't have my kids, but I have them. They're here with me every day. So about 4 years of calling the hotline, one day someone says, look, no one's going to audit them. Even if a CPS worker called their self and said what you're saying and had video proof that it was true, we wouldn't audit them. I said, why? He said, because the only person in the state of California that can get CPS audited is a California state senator.
Wow.
So for years when I was doing my speeches, I haven't done a protest or a speech in the front of the state capitol for maybe a year, 2 years. But I would always give speeches and I would shout so loud that people across the streets could hear me giving my speeches. I'm very vocal. I'm not playing around with this. And I would say for all you California state senators sitting in this, Capitol building that can hear me, when are one of you going to pick up your phone and say, we want CPS audited? We want to see where the money is going, because what happened to the $10,000 a month that was going to the foster care parent who didn't have my children? And when people are like, well, how do you know this was going on? Because I knew who the foster parent was. At one point, the foster parent was my mom. And I told my mom in front of SAC-B news reporters, I was featured on the cover of the Sacramento Bee Sunday newspaper, which if you're in Sacramento, it's a big deal to be on a Sunday paper and then on the cover.
Yes.
So those news reporters were sitting there when I confronted my mom in front of the CPS worker. Unbeknownst to my mom and the CPS worker, the two white ladies that were sitting there were Sacramento Bee news reporters. And so when I confronted the CPS worker about the documents of why are all these paragraphs written into a statement when it's just not true, and she said her supervisor took her paper, put a paragraph in it, and gave it back to her for her to sign. I said, well, that's against the law. You need to tell the courts that. She didn't want to do that. So then I said, well, why is my mom getting foster care checks? Why the hell is she getting $5,000-$10,000 a month when I have my kids? Like, how does this make sense, Laura?
Yeah.
I said, Mom, why don't you endorse that check to my kids? Or why don't you send it back to CPS? Or why don't you forward it to the FBI, who I've already called and said what you guys are doing? And all the FBI wanted to do was wanted me to press charges on my mom. I said, my mom's an ex-Delphine. I don't blame my mom for being clean and sober, but finding a way to get $10,000 a month. She sat right there in front of the news reporters when I said, why don't you get the money back? She said, this is my hustle.
Yeah.
I said, my kids are not your fucking hustle. What's wrong with you? Pardon my French. I don't know if we can curse on the podcast. But that's how it played out. And I was just like, okay, let me call child support. Call child support. Told them, hey, this fraud is going on. If me and my friend Susie and Stephanie did this with my kid, we all three would be in jail for welfare fraud.
Yeah, exactly.
So what makes it legal for the CPS workers to do it? The CPS worker said, even if your mom sends us the checks back, we're just going to resend them back to her. I said, but you're issuing foster care checks to a lady that don't have foster care kids. Let's make this make sense. She said, well, according to the court, your mom still has them because you only have them on a extended visit. I said, Laura, I've had my kids for 4 months now.
Yeah.
This ain't no extended visit. This is welfare fraud. This is hindering me as a mom. Like, I got to determine, am I going to go put $400 in the machine at the child support building, or am I going to buy my kid their winter coat?
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't right. So call child support. They claim they investigated, and that CPS had did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
it always come up like that.
So I'm still in the process of trying to figure out how to go about that because I had to wait. I didn't file my taxes for years because they were going to take the money.
Yeah.
So I went and talked to a lawyer who was like, unfortunately, you need to file your taxes and let them take the money because we can't sue them for stealing over thousands of dollars from you at one time until you actually let them do it. Yeah. So it's like, so I just went and filed my taxes a few months ago. They got their stolen money from me. And so now I'm in a position where I could go and say, hey, I would like to sue the whole entire agency of child support and specifically the child support worker assigned to me because they refused to get me a court date. They refused to investigate what was going on. And if they investigated it, how did they come to their conclusion? Because hell, all you had to do was come ask my kids, who have you lived with, child?
At that time, the social worker came and was like running when my sister was on her like in the hospital bed living with us, and she was like, I need you to sign this paperwork, and she had me and my mom sign it, and it was basically trying to say that I've lived with my grandma and I was only at my mom's house for 30 days.
Yeah.
But I had been with my mom for like 4 or 5 months at that time.
Yeah, so the CPS worker and the foster care worker, so my mom had to go through Our Children's Keeper to become foster care certified because you know they say, oh, we'll just give the kids to the grandparents. That's not true. That's not true. You have to go through a class and become a legitimate foster care parent to get your kids. So when my mom did that, they literally tried to give her other kids. She said, I didn't do this to get kids out the system. I did this to get my grandbabies out the system, get my grandbabies. So because she had went through the other agency and not through CPS to become a foster care worker, that worker stuck with them. So when the CPS worker showed up, here's the foster care worker showing up. So them two together, Jill, the lady's name was Jill from Our Children's Keeper, which was on Watt and Fulton in Sacramento. That building's not there no more. It's vacant. But the worker named Jill from Our Children's Keeper showed up with Laura Saunders at my mom's house, and they said, hey, because your other kids are home, Paulina's struggling. She doesn't understand why she's not at home. I said, yeah, I don't understand it either. It's okay. Well, we just think it's better if we place her back with you now. Right? No courts involved. It's just us sitting there conversating. So I take her. Well, after a few months goes by, that's when the worker shows up and says, in the report, it said that to her knowledge, my daughter had been staying with my mom. And when she came to my house to do a welfare check on my son, because, you know, she had to come out once or twice a month, she discovered my daughter there.
That's not true.
It's not true. And then she said that because so much time had went by with my daughter there, that she determined as a CPS worker, it would be in Paulina's best interest to leave her there and not violently remove her. And so I'm like, but this is all a lie. So she said, look, she got mad. She said, do you want kids or not?
Well,
she said, all you got to do is sit in court and just shut up. She
Yeah.
said, I am busting my ass to get you your kids, which
No,
I
she was saving
understand.
her ass.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, to a degree, right? Because they didn't want me to have my kids. It got to the point where we're going, she's like, okay, things are going to happen good at court. Things
Yeah.
are going to happen good. And we got out of court and she's slamming that door open. And she said, you know, it's like you're just this big effing bunny. And they're sitting on your back. And it's like your kids are the carrot and they're just dangling it in your face. How much more do they want to put you through? I said, calm down, Laura, because remember, I'm going to get the kids back. Calm down, Laura.
Yeah.
I said, you're starting to get pissed off like me. Welcome to the fight, Laura.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when she's like, I'm trying to get you your kids the best way I can. I'm asking you to walk in court and shut up. Let me do the line. Let me say what I got to say to get you your kids home. So I'm like, okay, cool. We get into court though,
Hmm.
and my daughter can't just sit there with this. So she's like, the judge is reading it all off, and I'm just sitting there like, shut up, Felicia, because you want your kids. You ain't trying to prove no people's wrong and fucking perjury is going on. So I'm just sitting there looking at my lawyer. And I'm looking. Actually, you know, my daughter's like, Your Honor, I want to say something. She said, I don't think it's right that my mom teaches us to tell the truth, to always be honest,
Hmm.
to never walk into court and lie under God.
Hmm.
But this lady just lied to you.
Yeah.
Everything in that report is a lie.
They all do.
And so she tells the story how her and Jill sent her home. And then she come and saw her and told us to go along with it. And I'm just looking like deer in headlights at this point, like, oh,
Yeah.
like, little girl, all you gotta
Yeah.
do is shut up. I'm gonna take you back away now.
Yeah.
Like, and the judge was like, I want to investigate Carlton Davis. I want an investigation because now it's brought to his attention. So at the end of the day, I got action to sue a judge.
Yeah.
People think that judges are protected under immunity and they can't be sued, and that's just not true. If you can prove that the judge, while on the bench with his judge hat on, had knowledge, had evidence, and witness testimony presented in his courtroom, the law says that the judge can't look away, that
Yeah.
justice is no longer blind. The veil has come off and the judge's hands are tied
Yeah.
because he's supposed to enforce the law. When you go into a civil courtroom and you see a bailiff standing there,
Yeah.
he's not standing there for show and glory.
Yeah.
He's standing there to take people to jail.
Yeah.
It's not just to keep the judge safe. It's for when you're held in
Yeah, that's
contempt of
sickening.
court,
That is very
Yeah.
true.
when you have violated the law to such atrocious where the judge
Yeah.
sees it, hears it. Law says judge can't look away. He
Yeah.
has to have you brought up on the charges
Yeah.
right then and there.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And you had to fight for your own child.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable to me.
so I mean, I'm
Like,
still gonna go my round in court with them. Like,
even
it's
for
not
them
over
to
at
know
all.
that you're fighting to get your own child back. I mean, isn't that good enough for them to know that you care as a mother? You are more capable no matter what. You know,
it's
that's it.
crazy.
You know, a mother has to fight for her own child, and then they take your child, and they don't have. They just, they don't even take care of them. Now they end up dying in their hands. How many kids are dying in jail,
No,
in prison,
no.
even unnecessarily?
But that's the thing, though, is parents need
And
to
foster
step
care.
up and
The
fight
foster
back.
care is another
So,
beast.
while
And
my
they don't audit
yeah.
them.
So
Yeah.
while my kids were in foster care, and this could be looked up, I sued CPS. I sued the worker, the supervisor, and the person above her because they have personally took my stuff and said, yes, we'll give this to David. Now that puts you in charge of it.
Yeah.
So when my son's shoes was given to another kid, and the worker said, and I quote, your mom brings you new clothes and shoes all the time. Food, snacks, toys. That kid's mom don't bring him nothing. So she gave him my baby stuff.
No.
So when my son, and then had the audacity, because they were the same shoes, had the audacity to take this little boy's shoes and put them on my son, sent my son to a visit to see me like that. So I'm like, okay, why your shoes look so old? Like, how did this even happen? Boy, these shoes is a week old. He's mad. He said, these aren't my, and I'm there to give him more clothes. And he said, I like all these clothes, Mom, but take them home because they just going to give them away.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, this is crazy. I'm like, we're going to sue him, Poppy. We're going to sue him. So I went to small claims court, Bicentennial, and I filed a lawsuit against the workers. In the lawsuit, right, because my son was taken away from me, I didn't have physical custody at the time. But under the Constitution of the United States, I still have parental rights. So as a parental rights holder, I went into the court and I filed for what's called, which I learned from family court, a guardian ad litem. So a guardian ad litem, for those of you who don't know, it's basically where you're telling the court this person is incompetent in court process, or they just can't emotionally get along with the court, and I'm here to navigate on their behalf for them. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not their lawyer, but I'm here to be a representing entity for them.
Yeah.
And whatever me and the court decide is what they abide by. So I told the court, I had to write a petition to the court, and we can have a follow-up podcast one day and I can bring it in and show you. And basically what I did was outline to the courts what was happening. That my son is in foster care and he's being abused by the CPS supervisors. And while they're overseeing this grotesque abuse, my son would like the opportunity to sue them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that he's 6 or 7 years old. He has a constitution, fundamental right to say, they took my stuff, they didn't give it back, I want to sue them. I said, so this lawsuit isn't being brought before the court on behalf of me. The lawsuit is being brought before the court on behalf of my son, who I'm requesting to be appointed his legal counsel so that I can request him in a civil matter. I said, I understand that the courts cannot allow me to represent my son criminally or in probate or in, I forget what the other realm of court is. I said, but civilly speaking, we are not slaves no more.
Yeah.
This is my property. My property wants to defend itself, and I would like to come and be appointed to my property.
Yeah.
And boom, it was granted. The judge came back and said, motion granted. So then CPS hated me because I would get on the phone and say, well, I know it's not my scheduled visit day, but I would like a meeting with my client for 1 hour to go over our court process.
Wow.
I said, and if you restrict my client from me, I'll inform the court that you are not allowing your client to meet with his court counsel to discuss his case. And so that they would get hella mad. They would say, you're not getting these visits. And they never allowed me to see him and have my lawyer meetings with them. But the day it was time to go to court, they had to bring him to the court. And so they took him to my mom for a weekend visit and had my mom to bring him. But when we went, the judge was ready to rule in my favor. The only thing that happened was I didn't take all my receipts. So I didn't know that small claims court is one and done. When you go, you got to have all your receipts, all your stuff right then and there. They'll make a ruling right then and there because I had spent the prior years. And while that case was going on, I'm still in federal court fighting the police.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm thinking it's a process to this.
Yeah.
No, not in small claims court.
Yeah.
It's boom, boom, boom. So when I show up, there was a lawyer there for the county. And the judge told the lawyer, he said, I don't know what you're doing here. She's not suing CPS as an entity. She's suing the workers as individual people. So, and even if he said, and even if she was suing CPS as the entity, this is small claims court. Counsel is not allowed. They have to defend themselves. So then the guy wanted to go on to say that they weren't served.
Wow.
And the sheriff served them. So the judge was like, you mean to tell me that, he said, well, one of my clients went out to lunch, came back, and this paper was on her desk. He said, okay, so she was served by the sheriff. He said, well, she wasn't technically handed. He said, no, we're not playing these games.
Yeah.
We're not. He said, look, and then because we went into it. So he said, look, I've heard what I need to hear. He said, I'm ready to make my ruling. He said, Ms. Clark, is there anything else you want to add to this? He said, because it was about $2,500 worth of receipts.
Wow.
And so I said, well, Your Honor, I have a shoebox of receipts. I didn't know to get my monetary damage that I would need all those receipts right now to show everything that they have took. And so he said, well, it's your case. What do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I would like to withdraw the case in the interest of justice so that I can refile. I said, and on top of that, I said, Your Honor, the CPS workers aren't here. I want them in your courtroom. I said, because you cannot turn away from justice. I said, Your Honor, your hands are tied. And if the evidence presented itself in this courtroom, you would have no choice but to hold these CPS workers in contempt for child abuse, child neglect, and child endangerment. I said, because as we all know, if you're guilty of one of those, you're guilty of all of those.
Yeah.
I said, so by them sending this man here, they were allowed to escape justice in this courtroom because they didn't have to stand before you. You don't get to tell the bailiff to take them into custody and read them their rights for child abuse. I said, so I want to make sure that they're served in their hearing. If not, then they face consequences for that. I said, but at the end of the day, I want to bring the other receipts too.
Yeah.
He said, okay, because I see about $2,700 of damages here. I don't see 5,000. But if you could get those other receipts, he said, so is that what you wish to do today? You wish to redraw your case in the interest of justice so that you can file at a later time? He said, and did I hear you say that without prejudice? So I look, because the judge can't give you advice. They can't counsel you while you're being your counsel.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, that means again, Your Honor. He said, well, that means that you can come retry this case at any time you want, as long as you're within the time. Is that what I heard you asking? I said, yes, Your Honor. That is what you heard me asking. He said, okay. He said, well, then I'm going to dismiss this case because that's what you're asking. He said, and then when you come back with your other stuff and refile, we'll rehear it. And then my daughter got hurt. So if I was like, fuck this stuff they stole from my, excuse me, I got to work on my cursing. I was like, forget the stuff they stole from my son. I'm going to focus on this. But what I've recently discovered through my investigating is that in the state of California, you got 4 years to sue for breach of contract. So while you can only sue up to a year, 2 years tops for wrongful death, I got them on breach of contract. And then when they doubled down and took my taxes for child support, that started the time clock over, right? Because you just now getting stuff. So I could say on this day and this time. Yeah. So from the date they took my taxes, I got 4 years to go after them. But I'm not going to wait that long because I want it fresh, right? But yeah, so in the end, that's what I'm going to do. I didn't never want to sue them for wrongful death because there's no price you could put on this.
No,
There's no price you could put on this. And I wasn't going to sit down for 1 second and let the county even think that I needed your dollars to take care of her funeral arrangements. So I paid for it all on my own. We didn't have car washes. We didn't do fundraisers. I took all my money that I had been saving.
Her family actually, from her dad's side, made a GoFundMe and then didn't contribute none of it to her funeral. They just kept the money.
Wow.
That happens frequently.
Yeah. So a lot of people had made GoFundMes for her that I found out later on. And I was just like, wow, I didn't even make one for her. Like, so it's, it's a lot, but I'm still protesting. I'm going to get back to it every year. I hold an annual march at the state capitol called Marching for Families' Rights. I've had a couple of big turnouts with it. I get guest speakers to come. I get educators to come. So like Sonia Lewis is a very big, I don't know if you've met her.
Sonia.
Yeah, that's
She's
my girl.
amazing.
She will show up and show out and come with all the statistics on how school is a pipeline to the prison system and how we fell into kids there. And then she comes with the whole aspect of she sees kids that get took from their parents and then show up at school and what that's like as an educator. And so, so I love the marches and protests. And I was telling this mama bear over here that thank you for inviting me out to be a part of her event that's on the 25th to raise awareness for and remembrance for homicide victims.
Absolutely.
Because I haven't done anything for a while. And until we got together the other day for a remembrance event for parents who have lost a child, it really put a fire back under me. It let me know we're not alone. And
No, we're not alone.
doesn't matter how our kids passed away. We're parents without our kids, right? And so that's what I want to start getting connected with the other moms, go and help with their protests, help with their fight, keep their baby's name alive. And when I have my stuff, that's more moms that could come out, help keep my baby's name alive. But yeah, so the big thing that I want everybody to take away from this is we need CPS audited.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
need to know where the money's going.
Yeah.
We need to know, is the money going to the children? Is the money going to the foster care parent? Then there's
Donations.
the donation. So
Yeah.
the Children's Receiving Home on Watton Avenue gets thousands, hundreds and thousands of dollars every year for shoes, right? The Sacramento Kings personally donate thousands and thousands of brand new shoes. I don't know who
Wow.
they contract with, Nike or
Yeah.
Reeboks or whoever, because these
Yeah.
are name brand shoes that are out there.
Mhm.
But here's the thing. If you go to the Sacramento County Children's Receiving Home and you go to the back of their property, you'll notice these big old storage shipment containers filled with all the shit that the kids were supposed to
There's
get.
about a good
Yeah.
10 of them.
Yeah.
I found out what was in them because my shoes that my mom had gotten stolen by one of the kids. And I had these flip-flops and they broke. And the staff, like social worker, like for the dorm I was in, she was so pissed to have to go get me these shoes. And I'm thinking it's just gonna be like one or two pairs. She was like, if you lose these shoes or they get took, that's gonna be your problem. I don't know what you're gonna have to do.
Wow.
And her name was Patricia. And when she opened up the storage container, filled to the top, like the shoes were falling out, like no joke. And it was not like there was limited edition shoes in there. And I'm sitting there like thinking, like, you have such a problem. Like, she didn't even want to give me the right size shoes. Like, she had given me like
Yeah.
a 2 size shoes higher than what I needed. So I'm walking around with these big old shoes. And then these kids stole the staff keys and they opened up all the containers. And one container had shoes, one container had art stuff, one container had this like soccer stuff. But this is stuff we did not get to touch, like at all. We
Yeah.
didn't get this stuff.
So when she told me this, I looked up the law for nonprofit. Turns out that you are not allowed to get more donations than you have prepared to give out,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can't hoard your donations. So then the receiving home, when they were
Keeping
investigated,
it to yourself.
Yeah. Because then it's like if you go to the Children's Receiving Home and you go and you tell, if you were to have a fire drill, you tell everybody, get out, line up right now, like you're in school, line up everybody, and you looked at their shoes, you will see that every staff member has on some beautiful ass shoes to where maybe 90% of the kids in there got on shit shoes. Unless you're a parent like me and you constantly working around the clock and you're taking stuff up there,
Or
like, here, put this on.
it would get to the point like they would not. So my mom would go and get us snacks and stuff, and they would lock up our snacks and not give them to us. It would get to the point like me and all the other kids, like when we needed hygiene or food, like the Denny's across the street felt so bad for some of the kids. They would let us come in and the staff would buy us food from the Denny's.
Oh my God.
Like they give you like
but the
lunch,
kids would
breakfast,
go
and dinner.
across too and steal. So you got kids running in and out of the liquor store, the AM PM, the Shell gas station,
It got to
running
the
rampant
point you
stealing.
couldn't be under 18
Yeah.
in
What
that
can they
parking
do?
lot at all because they were just
Cops won't even come out for that. So I protested a lot before my daughter had even got hurt. When my kids first got took, I was out there protesting. When Kendra passed away, we really set it off.
Mm-hmm.
And even my daughter was out there in her wheelchair. So if you pull us up on the cover of the newspaper, you'll see me standing out there and my daughter's in her wheelchair. That's how much she was like, I'm gonna go protest with you, Mom. Like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
So and it's crazy too because like I talked to the mayor about this. Like, people could pull the videos where you see people speaking out at City Hall, and I told the mayor this needs to be moved. We have juvenile hall in Sacramento way out on what not Bruceville, that's the branch. They're way out on like Jackson or something, right?
From what was it called? Something Mont. No. By what avenue all the way down?
I don't
What's
know.
it called?
North Island?
No. It's by that school, the
Richmond
High
High.
School. Yeah, there is a school right there. And then the thing is, right across the street, there's a high school by the juvenile.
Yeah, they just built that one. But the whole point is, back in the day, 20 years ago, nothing was out there.
Yeah.
It was a good 20-30 minute ride to get to juvenile hall, and you didn't see nothing but fields.
Yeah.
Now everything is built up around it. It's a high school across the street. But the point is, juvenile hall is still hella far out the way,
Yeah.
right? You can't walk out of juvenile hall, throw a stone, and hit a freeway.
Yeah.
At the children's receiving home, I told the mayor, Daryl Steinberg, I said, look, since the 80s, if not the 70s,
Yeah.
everybody knows in Sacramento, California, Watt and Auburn Boulevard is the hoe stroll. You have a children's receiving home sitting on the hoe stroll boulevard where active prostitutes are out there day and night.
A sex
I
trafficking.
said, so you
another
know
one.
you got
Yeah.
these kids right
Larry
there.
is doing.
I said, and in the backyard is the freeway.
Yeah.
I said, so what type of yard are these kids playing in, Daryl? The front
Yeah.
yard is hookers and prostitutes
Yeah.
and pimps. The backyard is a freeway. I said, it's just a matter of time, Daryl, before somebody gets hit and dies.
Yeah.
You need to move these kids out of that receiving home. Shut it down. He disregarded me. So when Kendra ran across the freeway chasing another youth, I will always say a staff member should have died that day. And I stand on that. A staff member should have died that day, not Kendra. Because had they been doing their job, keeping the kids safe, watching the kids,
Yeah.
running after the kids like they claim they do, Kendra wouldn't have been on that little girl tail.
Right.
A grown-ass adult would have, and they would have died, not Kendra.
Right.
Right? Or had the mayor listen to me and implemented policy. You can't snatch someone's kids from them and put them in a building and tell them, well, we can't lock the door. That's against the law.
Yeah.
They can go whenever they want.
So they're not locked from the inside, so you can leave when you want, but you can't come back in.
Yeah, you can't come back in. So when the kids are ready to come back in, they gotta sit outside and reflect. So when these kids come back at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, they don't get to just walk through the gate. They have to sit there and reflect on what they did and why they did. And when the staff wants to get off their lazy high horse and open the door and let the kid in, then they can come in. So
that's another policy we can find
Yeah.
that they can change. Because the thing I tell people about this policy, we can blame it on the mayor, and we have to come together
yeah.
and write those policies and give it to them to change. But if we say, oh, governor, change the policy, oh, mayor, change, but they don't even have time
Yeah,
to
they
do.
don't.
They
And
don't
they
even
don't
know
know
what
what's going
policy.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but we as mothers and as people who are going through this has to come and create a policy and say, this is how we want
Well,
to change.
I don't know all the policies that
Yeah.
got put in place because a lot of social workers, or not social workers, but like they're workers in the buildings, they come back and talk to me and they're like, girl, you may change. They're
Yeah.
like, I know
That's what
you
we have
probably
to do.
don't feel like it or
Yeah.
you don't see it, but policies have
It's
been put in
important.
place because of the noise you were making.
Yeah.
And then when the receiving home got blasted the way they did in the newspaper, you know, a lot of policy up. So when my kids were in there 5, 6 years ago, you would go down Watt and Auburn Boulevard any day or night, and you would see hella kids.
Yeah.
Day, night, didn't matter. Hella kids. They would be in front of the receiving home, walking up and down the boulevard, all at the shops across the street.
Mm-hmm.
Now that don't happen no more. Doesn't happen no more. There are policies were put in place to where
Yes,
no one
that's
could
what I
go
was
across the
saying.
street because
Yeah.
right across the street is a massage parlor.
Mhm.
Which how sick is that?
Yeah.
You have a massage parlor across the street from a receiving home
Oh, and a gun range.
and a gun range, liquor store, right? It's
Yeah,
like
but
it's all there. So
And they
now
pretend as if it doesn't exist. They
Mhm.
know it exists,
Mhm.
but they're waiting for the public to step up and like you making noise and say, change it. If we don't do that, you know, they just sit there and wait, you know, until somebody steps
Yeah.
up.
And then the lawyers, they're not checking on the kids in the
No,
receiving home.
No.
It's like if you go into a hospital, a mental institution, even juvenile hall, you see a wall with papers.
Yeah.
For what? So if you
Yeah.
need to file a complaint, if you want to get into a program,
Yeah.
all of that's there. Not at the receiving home, right? These kids don't have the option to go to a wall, pull a piece of paper, fill it out, and turn it in.
Yeah.
They don't have the option to stay anonymous when making their complaints. They don't have the option to even write their complaint. But someone told me that after I had brought that to enough people's attention, and then again, it was the newspaper article that had came out,
Yeah.
that now I guess the kids can access paperwork in there. And I
Oh.
guess lawyers are going in there now and talking to the kids more and more But I don't know if that's true. None of my kids are in there no more. I got all my kids back.
Another thing that they do, they get funding to give the kids allowances, and the way they do it is so weird. But if you save up your money, so if you're on trust, you get like $5 a day. That adds up to a lot of money. Well, when you leave, if you don't remember to ask to go to the hub, because you don't get to keep your allowance with you, they have your allowance in the front office. If you don't remember to go ask for your allowance, they keep it. And when you go back, they don't give it to you.
Wow.
Where'd the money go?
Like one time I
That's
had
another
about,
thing that needs to be audited.
Yeah.
Where's the baby's allowance
Yeah,
going?
I
that's
had
not
about, like,
fair. I mean,
$60 saved up, and I
Yeah.
forgot, and I literally had went back 2 weeks later, and I asked the staff, I was like, hey, I have $60 in my allowance, I want to get that so I can go to get some snacks and stuff.
yeah.
And she was like, well, when you leave, if you don't remember to get your allowance, it's just gone. You don't get to, we don't
And
save
you're
your
a kid,
allowance.
even we
That is
forget.
so
I mean,
wrong.
Yeah.
it's so wrong how
That's
they
so
do
wrong.
that. And instead of investing in the kids, the adults actually taking advantage of the kids.
And if you
Yeah.
think about it, like, it's hundreds of kids that go in and out of these group homes and
Yeah.
stuff. So if all the group homes are doing that, because it's every
Can you
single group
imagine
home.
$5 a day for every kid in that building? We're
Yeah.
talking hundreds and thousands of dollars
Yeah.
here. We're talking millions
If
when
they
we
give
look
it to
at
the
this
parents,
annually.
imagine.
Yeah, that's what
They-
I always said. Like if CPS would have said, hey, instead of giving $5,000, $10,000,
Yeah.
$15,000 or $20,000 a month to these people for your kids, how
How
about
they give it
we
to-
put all your kids into sports? We put all your kids
Yes.
into this. We give
Music,
you
art.
an annual pass for all your kids to go to Great
Yeah.
America.
Right.
Like, you know
That's
what I
a
mean?
policy we gotta fight for.
That's something that
We're
a
gonna
parent
fight,
could have
yeah.
said, hey, you better be good because we're going to Great America this weekend. And
Yeah.
you'll be sitting at grandma's
Yeah.
if you don't
Keep them
straighten it up.
busy.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Invest in them.
But there's no incentive to the broke parent for their kid. And then
Yeah.
when you do got a good foster parent, or even if they're
Yeah.
not all the way good, but they use the money how they supposed to. So they constantly taking the kids to the movies, to the ballpark, out to eat. When you get your kid back, they have this unrealistic sense of take me here, take
Yeah.
me there, buy
Yeah,
me
that's
this,
right.
buy me that. And when you can't do it,
Yeah.
well, I want to go back to foster care. So then it's like they set up unrealistic
Yeah.
expectations on a parent that they kidnapped their kid, gave
Yeah.
thousands of dollars to another
Mhm.
parent,
Yeah.
and then told this parent,
And
well,
instead of
go
giving
do a
it to
parenting
you.
class. Yeah,
Yeah.
go do a parenting class, go do therapy class, go do this, go do that.
Yeah.
But nothing is really bridging the gap between me and my kid.
Yeah.
While meantime, in between time, this other lady's getting thousands
Yeah.
of dollars to live a glorious life with them. Like I probably could have had a glorious life too if
Yeah.
I was getting $160,000 a year
Exactly.
for my
Yeah.
4 kids.
Yeah.
Well, there would be these foster families. So like me and my sister went to this, we called it the organic family.
Yeah.
And when we went, they had 2 kids with them already. They would take their kids out to do stuff, their biological kids, and they would like leave one person with us and make us stay home.
Wow.
Well, not home, but like at the house.
Or what about the water?
Yeah.
They were so organic, they only allowed bathing 2-3 times a week.
Oh,
Wow.
My daughter came to visit with her big toe so tore up, so nasty. I immediately got on my phone and called 911. Sure did. Made an ambulance come with a fire truck,
Wow.
looked at my baby, filed a report. And when the fire little marshal dude was like, well, you know, everybody raises their children differently. I said, hey, these ain't they children. These my children.
Yeah.
These my children. And this is not okay. I said, you mean to tell me as a medical professional, looking at her toe,
yeah,
that was your
no.
baby? You would be fine with that?
Yeah,
He said, well, look, we could clean it with some saline solution. I said, look, some hot water and soap would have did it.
Mm.
Had these foster care parents took better care of
Yeah.
my baby. So I'm like, why aren't you asking them, when's the last time she took a bath?
Yeah.
When's the last time she washed her foot? Then so they were like, look, we have scheduled water times in our house. You people get thousands of dollars. You live on the
Yeah.
American
They
river
make
front.
money
Yeah,
off
like
our
the
kids.
back
And you
Backyard,
doing these
foster
kids
kids.
faulty.
The
Yeah.
backyard, all you had to do was walk through a gate, and then there was this bigger gate, and it was the river.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you living in $1 million home,
Wow.
you get
Like this is in
thousands of
Carmichael.
dollars.
Yeah.
And then it was the bathing suits, right? So she was always a little thicker than my other daughter. My middle daughter, who has blue eyes, blonde hair, a little skinny, flat. We call her Hollywood stomach. My daughters were never allowed to show midriff.
Yeah.
Just wasn't allowed to do it. You don't. As a little girl, you don't put certain things on little girls. Like there's no reason why my daughter got a bikini bought for her. But her other sister, who's only 2 years younger, got a full bathing suit. What the hell you put my other daughter in a bikini for?
Yeah.
So then it's like when my kids start coming and I start going through their clothes, because I never went through my kids' rooms. I hated when my mom did that, and I swear to God, I would never be a mom that reads my kids' diaries or journals unless they say read it. So when I'm going through my daughter's clothes, I'm like trying to put her clothes away, and I'm like, what is this? It's like hidden.
Yeah.
These little raunchy, nasty ass bikinis.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you knew something wasn't right with this because you hid it when you came home. You're never gonna wear this with me. Who bought this for you? She was like, my foster dad did.
What?
He
I
wouldn't
said,
allow us to lock
okay.
the bedroom
What
door.
the foster mom got to say about this?
Wow.
She was like, she didn't say nothing.
Poor kid.
I was like,
After-
okay,
After that
this is
foster home,
not
they
cool.
separated us. They tried to say it was because we fought too much, and they
So?
separated us. But it was, I truly believe something happened to my sister in that foster home. He would never allow us to lock the door when we would, like when I would get up in the middle of the night and I'd lock the door because my mom always said, like, if you don't feel safe, lock the door.
Yeah.
Like my mom always kept her front door locked.
Yeah.
So I would lock the door, and when we would wake up, he would be pissed off. Why would you lock the door? You're not allowed to lock doors in this house. Like, don't be locking the bedroom door. And it never, like, not 10-year-old me didn't understand why you would be pissed off in the middle of the night when the door is locked.
Yeah.
Until I got older and started realizing you were trying to do stuff, not to me. You weren't looking at me.
Yeah.
You were always looking at my sister. You were always wanting to take my sister out on outings. You were always taking her out shopping for little dresses and stuff.
The dress, they got her a dress with her whole little back out. Like,
wow.
It is. I mean,
got my
I get it.
sister
It's
an
appropriate.
identical dress.
Not that dress
As
is
a
appropriate.
20-year-old, and she won't want it. She
Yeah.
don't want it.
Yeah.
Till this day, I can't get my daughter to dress how that foster dad was trying to dress her.
Yeah.
I like that store on Water Avenue, Rainbow. I saw a lot of cute sexual things in there too. I was like, oh, she would look hella cute in this. She's an adult now. It's appropriate.
Yeah.
And she is just so shunned off from it to where I'm like, you wanted a dress like this when you were a little girl and it wasn't appropriate. Now you're a grown woman and you're just so shunned off by this. But I never thought anything happened to her. Like at the end of the day, I had 4 virgins took from me and I only got 1 back.
Yeah. And they took everything away, not only from you, from your kids.
Yeah, like my children
and
were.
then you have to fight.
Yeah.
They
were
unheard.
They were heavily abused. My children were beat, raped, sodomized, molested. My Blue Eyes, the one we're talking about now, my angel, that's the only one who wasn't sexually victimized. And now you're saying that, you know, you might have, like, we don't talk about this a lot. Like sometimes my kids will just say random things.
Yeah.
But I try really hard not to, or if they start talking about, oh, I lived in a foster house over there, I lived over here, I'll be like, hey, change the station. I don't want to hear about this shit. Like, but then I get mad at myself because I'm like, what did you go through? You know what I mean? What did you go through? Because when you get visits with your kids, they'll tell you. You're not allowed to ask about their foster home. You are not allowed to ask your kids how they're doing. You are not allowed to ask your kids, is everything safe at home?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to. And if you ask your kid during a visit, how are things going at home? And your kid starts to cry. Oh, well, then you as the parent just upset your kid. So now the visit's over. Time to go.
It get to the point where my mom, like, jokingly, when I would be little and I'd get a pouty face, she used to call me Eeyore. But when I'd be in the visits, I would look like Eeyore in the face because I didn't want to cry and visit with my little brother and my other siblings because they're not sad right now.
Yeah.
But my mom would look, and like me and my mom would kind of like just look at each other, and like she would just like sit there and give me a hug. And it would be like I couldn't talk about my feelings or what I was going through. Like I got jumped in one of the foster homes by the foster girl because the biological son was mad.
Child.
And they left me outside.
Child got to beat up my child.
Like I was bleeding from the face. I was about like 10 and a half, about to be 11.
Their whole face had 2nd-degree burns is what you would classify it as, because the lady was black. She felt like she could send my white baby into the sun, and not put no sunscreen on her, not give her
Yeah,
no
not
protection,
wearing it.
and then not
Yeah.
let her come in and take breaks from the heat.
Like she would
So-
leave me out there from like she would like wake me up at 6 a.m. and she would like be like get ready, and then from 7 a.m. to like the sun would we have to just like when it gets cooled down outside, she'd be like, okay, you guys can come back in now.
Yeah.
And like I didn't realize like my face had gotten so bad because after a while like the burning on my face I kind of just stopped. So
Yeah.
I didn't think nothing of it until my mom seen me and like the look on her face, like it was like I was
I was
dead.
devastated. Like, come
Wow.
on, I'm a biracial woman. I'm black,
Yeah.
white, Mexican, and Indian. But I cared for my white children appropriately. Like I
Yeah.
have 2 kids who look just like me, her and my son. They just like me, and then my 2 middle kids, they're white.
Yeah.
So it's like I told the people I want my children to go with black families because I'm not white. I don't want them in a white household. And the one time they did was the hippies, where they didn't want to wash my babies. But y'all live in $1 million home. What's going on here?
The
Yeah.
first foster home we went to, she would let her sister come over and hit us.
What?
Like there I had this basketball because I used to always be like big in boys sports when I was little. So my mom got me this basketball and I was just tossing it in my hand and the sister came in and she got mad. She was like, don't be playing with balls in my sister's house. And I was like, you're not my mom. Stop telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And she tried to take the ball and like she ended up like smacking me and I like was just crouched over the ball
Yeah.
and I was holding it because I was trying to not let that ball go. Like that was my ball my mom got me. And it wasn't no expensive ball or nothing. It was just my mom had got me that ball and it was the first
It was
couple months of being away from
Yeah,
my
it was
mom.
Yeah.
And the daughter to the foster mom came in and she jumped in and then my sister came out the room and like we all started fighting. But me and my sister are like little ass girls and these are 2 grown ass adults. And when we would go over to her house and she had these adopted kids and she would like beat them with the fucking belt. Like the belt buckle, she would sit there and hit them and we were like, you're not allowed to do that. Like my mom didn't hit us like that. You're not allowed to do that. You're gonna get your kids killed. She said, I adopted these kids, they're mine. I can do whatever the fuck I want to them.
And like Alana Marie Chapman, who
Yeah.
got my daughter to leave the receiving home, her foster mom is a cop. So when this accident happened with my daughter, Alana was questioned one time by the police. When my daughter was able to talk, we got Alana on the phone and Alana confessed everything.
Wow.
She said who was really driving the car because they tried to blame it on my daughter's boyfriend because he had passed away. She said that she gave my daughter drugs, gave her pills, and my daughter said, then why would you let the guy drive? Like we were all so lit. Why? And Alana's just like, I don't know. I handed that call over to the police.
Yeah.
They said they wouldn't do nothing. Then I get a phone call.
Yeah.
Get a phone call from a foster parent who happens to be Alana's foster mom and lets me know that she is a cop and that Alana will never be re-questioned by the police.
Wow.
And I said, okay. I said, so you're aware that your foster daughter's a prostitute, a known prostitute on Facebook, prostituting herself out. And you the foster mom? I said, well, now it makes sense how this is happening because you're a cop. So whoever want to fact check that, look up Alana Marie Chapman and see her foster mom. That's a cop. Yeah, it's an inside job that was going on. So beyond getting CPS audited, which I think that's a big thing, because once you get it audited,
yeah,
and you see where the money's going,
Yeah.
how the money's getting there, what it's being spent on, then policy could be put in place. Because
Yeah.
right now you can't write policy to something where you don't know, and then they'll say, oh well, there's no funding.
yeah,
Well, let's see how much thousands and millions of dollars is just sitting on the table while you're telling parents there's no funding.
yeah.
There's no funding. And then it's crazy too, like the children's receiving home, they're not licensed to educate kids there.
Mm.
But since the 90s and all the way up until I reported them to traffic control, because I want to know, why are there no signs in front of the children's receiving home?
Yeah.
Why is there no lights? I protested for so long to get even a sign where it's the lady holding the baby's hand crossing the street. So you know there's women and children walking here. Proceed with caution. They said they couldn't do it. They said they couldn't put in a giger meter, but then they put one in right down the block from there, where right next to the children's receiving
But
home.
there's a preschool.
It used
in
to
there.
be the
not for the foster kids. There's a preschool, like
Yeah.
a regular. You can
Wow.
So,
send your kid.
right next to the receiving home used to be the planetarium. Now it's a cooling station for homeless people. The little light got put in right there, but not in front of the receiving home. When I said, why can't you put a light right here? They said, because of the speed from one light to the next, it's going to disrupt the flow of traffic too much to put that there. I said, no.
Yeah.
No, this ain't
That's
making
just an
sense. I
excuse.
said, look, you guys could put a speed bump in, you could
Yeah.
put something. They said, well, the problem is it's right on the corner. I said, okay, well, go talk to the property owner and see about getting a sign out there. So for 2-3 years, there was a sign out there. Once that center went in next to the receiving home, the sign came down. So now people are just can speed as they want. No one knows to slow down. But it's the fact that they're not there. So if I don't get up and make my kid
Yeah.
go to school, after so long, truancy officers come to my door.
Yep.
No
then you end up in
truancy
court.
officers go to the children's receiving home. I personally called the police and requested welfare, health, and safety checks done on my children and go ask, why the hell are you not getting up going to school today? And where's the adult responsible for this? And there was never nothing done. Then they said, well, we don't have to make them go to school because they're doing school in here. So then when I talked to traffic control, turns out they don't hold a license to educate kids yet. All of my children's lawyers and Carlton Davis sat right there and said in court on record that although my child didn't go to school, they were receiving educational instruction within the institute. And I said, but I'm the educational rights holder.
Yeah.
So if I say get up and go to school, you get up and go to school. If I say who in there is teaching my kid,
Yeah.
you have to tell me. I said, but you don't have a licensed credited teacher in that building.
Yeah.
And then that's when traffic control broke it down that they don't hold a permit
Wow.
to do school there. So
Yeah.
how they were barking all that stuff in court, they don't have the legal, they don't have the paper to do it. There's no permits for them to do it, which means they're not supposed to, which means kids are supposed to be getting up every day and going to school.
Yeah.
Or they should be getting audited. So if you called, it's been so many years, I forget what it's called, but if you're having a problem with the receiving home or the foster care, you could call these one people and they'll look into it. Well, all they do is cover that up.
Yeah.
So for
Because they
example,
work together.
yeah, my daughter, my middle daughter, my blue eyes, she left the children's receiving home unconscious in an ambulance due to alcohol poisoning. Well, when I filed the investigation and the complaint, they said that it was unfounded. That because I didn't know the exact date that my daughter had left there in an ambulance, it didn't happen. And I said, look, I heard about this through the damn grapevine. I said, but at the end of the day, if we call 911 and say how many
Yeah.
ambulances have left with children, they'll tell you. If you call the hospital and say, was Angelica Marie Velasquez entered on this day at this time for alcohol poisoning, they'll tell you and you'll have your date. I said, hell, go ask my daughter. Does she remember leaving here in an ambulance or waking up in a hospital and saying, how did I get here?
I was
Oh,
the
well,
one
you
who
died
told the
from
staff to
alcohol
call.
poisoning.
Like I had to hop the gate, open it from the inside, drag her in, and then like she wouldn't walk no more. Like she just passed out on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
Wow.
throwing up on cars and stuff, and they ain't coming out saying nothing. She had to make them to call the ambulance for my daughter.
Yeah.
Like my
Oh,
sister had to
so
come back the next
crazy.
day to get her phone from me. So like when they said it never happened, it's like I didn't live there, and you had to call code red for me hopping the gate, and then
Yeah.
also call 911 to come save my sister's life because she's dying on your sidewalk right now.
Wow.
Yep. So the rule is that if the receiving home gets enough red flags, they have to shut down by law. That's California state statute law. That group homes, receiving homes, anything that has to do with foster care kids, you can only get so many things before they have to shut you down. While at the children's receiving home on Watton Auburn Boulevard, they just keep finding things unfounded.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when San Francisco News Chronicle did an investigation on them back in 2017, and it was they think that the receiving home is shut down. So here's what happened to this. I don't know what you call it, a scam, a scheme. Basically, it's called. I call it a compound, right? Because when you go in a compound, you got hubs, right? At the children's receiving home, it's all under one address. It's 3555 Auburn Boulevard. But when you go in there, you got CPSU, you got this, you got this, you got that. So if I call and I say, investigate, they'll go into this one room, they'll shut it down, literally while all the rest of the compound
they
is
have
open.
everything open.
They'll paint that room, put new furniture in it, give it a new name, and open it right back up.
Yeah, so, like, when we
Wow.
first-
So the receiving home has never, not once, ever been shut down and children removed from there, which brings me back to the thing of the property, right?
Yeah.
Back in 2007, when I was in college, I sat in on a lecture for human trafficking. And it said people are not for sale in slavery. And I thought, well, we were free a long time ago. What is this
Yeah.
about? I learned back in 2007 that Sacramento, California is one of 7 hubs in the United States of America for central human
yeah.
trafficking.
Sex trafficking.
Meaning
Absolutely.
we have a system for the freeways and highways
Mm.
that you can get on it and literally within 60 seconds be in one of 7 directions going to different countries.
Wow.
Right? You can head that way
Yeah.
and be off in Mexico. You can head that way, be off in Canada. And it's all on our system. So when you look at the United States as a whole, there's only 7 states that have similar setups when it comes to these highways, byways, and freeways. So when you look at the children's receiving home, there's Watt and I-80. Then if you go down that way, just a couple blocks, there's the other freeway to get onto Watt Avenue. Then if you go to that way, there's the freeway for Watt and Auburn, and then the actual freeway in the backyard. So you got 5 freeways sitting around this receiving home. For shits and giggles, I called property people one day and said, hey, I want to buy this. I want to buy the property at 3555 Auburn Boulevard, and I want to turn it into a senior living home. They said, well, we'll never grant the permit for that. I said, well, why not?
Mm.
They said, because it's endangerment to elderly people. It's
What?
unsafe. I said, well, you mean to tell me that I couldn't buy this building and turn it into an old folks home because it's unsafe due to the nature of the freeways, but y'all got it as an active children's where our most victim, vulnerable
Yeah.
children, allegedly, right? They're all victims. According to CPS, every kid took is a vulnerable victim. You take our most vulnerable victims that are minors,
Yeah.
and you put them where you wouldn't put old people.
Yeah. That's sickening.
So it's like I've tried for years to protest to get that place shut down and relocated. I do believe in the structure of CPS, right? Because you got the stories like Gabriel Fernandez. You got
Yeah.
parents that literally
Yeah.
have multiple children and they're literally beating one of them to death. Yeah, kids need to be taken away from parents like that. You got parents molesting their kids like Kendra. You know,
Yeah.
her father had been touching her. And it was sad because when she died, he went from getting a life sentence
Mm.
to 12 years because she wasn't alive to testify.
Yeah.
She died right before his trial.
Yeah.
So instead of taking life in prison, that sick man
Yeah.
got 12 years, which he'll be out in what, 6,
Yeah.
7,
Yeah.
good behavior. So it's like it's
I mean,
crazy.
if you think about like you gotta, all of us gotta check, who live out in our neighborhood. So I
That's
was
true.
watching this, show. They told us how to do it. I went there and did it. And I live in a middle class, okay area. I cannot believe
Oh, the
how
sex
many,
offenders?
the sex offenders are
But
living
think about how many are not even
in our
registered.
neighborhood.
How many have flown under
And
the
they
scope?
put our kids into jail and all that stuff, but they put sex offenders in our neighborhood as long as they are registered, which most people don't even know.
Yeah,
And they
it's
just
sick.
they can live around us while our kids are running around. We don't know, but our kids suffer.
Yeah, because like the group homes. So I don't know about in Sacramento, but my daughter who passed away was she was raped by a man in a halfway house that was right around the corner from the group home. So it's like who's monitoring
Yeah.
these group homes, who's monitoring halfway houses, because I don't think that a halfway house with parolees, men fresh out of prison or women,
Yeah.
I don't feel like they should be within walking distance, go up the street and literally down the street, which is around the corner,
Yeah.
and you run into a group home full of children.
Yeah.
Like,
I had a group home where our neighbors, like, you could look from our bedroom window into the bedroom window of it. Theirs was a men's halfway house,
Yeah.
and ours was a group home for ages 12 to I
Yeah.
think 17. Like
That
you
is
couldn't be no
sickening.
older.
You know, I tell you, this foster thing, I mean, it's a good thing. Sometimes, like you said, there are some parents are bad. Like in Ethiopia, they, you know, especially those kids who lost their parents through AIDS and everything, the government used to allow for the Western to bring them foster.
Mhm.
What they found out was they were actually being abused, these kids.
Yeah.
Well, so Ethiopia government now banned completely.
Oh, they don't allow them to be
No,
adopted no more?
no
I
more.
want to go to Ethiopia.
Because what happened to this foster
God.
family?
Yeah.
They take them and abuse these kids,
It's
and
like
some of them they
Africa's
get
the only
killed.
one that put their foot down.
It was a good idea for those kids. Do you see what I mean? That we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have a parents to be
Well,
fostered to come here and get, you know, better opportunity. But
Yes.
because of that happening so much in these foster kids, the Ethiopian kids coming here and being abused, the Ethiopian government said no. Now we can't. You can't even foster, especially if you are.
I think Africa is the only one on the whole world continent that isn't kidnapping kids.
Yeah, you can't.
Like, that's crazy.
I mean, even when there is a tribe, if you foster a child, if you don't treat it like your own child, you're not even supposed to foster a child. You see, that's how
Yeah.
the principle in Ethiopia. Otherwise, because if it's not your child, no mother, no child can be taken care of. It's okay to be poor. I'd rather have my parent being poor than being foster family in a rich family that I get abused. You see what I
Yeah.
mean? But that's what is happening a lot of time. But where else, instead of investing that money into the parents, the women, and the single parents, like you
Yeah.
go to Europe. I lived in England. I always give that. There are some foster family. They get audited. My sister was a foster parent, and she actually was fostering white kids,
Yeah.
twins.
But they get audited out there?
They will audit them every month. They'll come and check them.
The parent or the actual agency?
There is agency, auditing agency, where they would audit her all the time, how she's taking care of these
Oh.
kids. So you have, because if you have that, you have no choice but to take care of these kids.
Yeah, see, that don't happen out here though.
That's what I'm saying.
There's not. And then when you do call, so all of the foster care parents, they're supposed to have workers that come and check on them with the
Yeah.
kids. That's not your assigned CPS worker.
Yeah.
It's just a person checking on them in the household. Well, one of the girls was friends with the girl she was checking on. So when I called her and said, hey, this chick is going out and spending like $60, $80 on fast food, dining out food, and then coming home and making my kids boiled hot dogs. This is a problem for me.
Yeah.
That lady was like, well, that's when she told me, well, I personally know her. She's a good friend of mine. And I just can't see her doing that to your kids.
Yeah.
As she goes to her house, this chick is literally boiling potatoes in grease. Like, there's so much minute chopped potato compared to the pan of oil. And then she got hot dogs in there. So I told the lady, I said, you literally walking into the meal that I'm telling you she making for my babies.
Yeah.
And you don't see nothing wrong with that?
Yeah.
She said, well, at the end of the day, this is a nutritious meal.
Yeah.
The proteins were met. I said, look, we
What
just
if they
gonna
lost her
agree to
kid?
disagree on
But
this.
He wouldn't feed her own daughter that though.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
But
he
that's what
would
I wanted to
go-
point out. She's feeding my kids and preparing my kids stuff that she's not feeding her own kids.
Wow.
Why? Why is she
Yeah.
doing this? I said, and the stuff that she's making is not okay. I wouldn't cook that if my life depended. Like, how do you take a whole pot of oil and just throw a couple little potatoes in there? Like, I get it, whatever. Some people want to eat that way. I don't feed my kids that way.
Yeah.
She would put it on like a paper plate, and like my mom, she wouldn't just like take the food right from the grease and put it. She would put it in like some like parchment
you
paper,
drain the
something,
grease,
drain
yeah.
it.
It's like they
She
don't
would, like,
care.
No, she would just give it to him.
She would slap it on the plate, and then like they would be hella like they wouldn't be like cooked all the way. They would be hella mushy, so that's just like that point where it's just now getting all the grease in it.
Yeah.
I had gained like I want to say a good 70 pounds within the first 3-4 months being in there, and I was on
She's
10.
just now starting to lose the
Yeah.
weight. 2 of my kids starved themselves, and so it was hit and miss. She was one of the ones that a kid with a full mouth is a kid with a closed mouth.
Yeah.
So and then I didn't let my kids eat McDonald's. I didn't let my kids eat beef.
Yeah.
I didn't let my kids eat a whole bunch of shit that they just said, oh, well, we'll take you here.
Yeah.
Your mom don't want you to eat McDonald's. Come on, I'll go take you. I'll get you whatever you want.
Mm.
So she ran for it and she ran for it. My middle daughter, my blue eyes, and my son, they didn't. They were like, I don't want it. My mom don't want me to eat that. I don't want to eat that. I want my mom's food. I'm not eating nothing if it ain't my mom's food.
Yeah.
So it's like two just got really, really fat and
I
two
was-
got really, really skinny.
I was
Mm.
always the kid, like, you can ask my mom. She just said it the other day. She was like, if anyone ever asks what's your favorite food, I'm going to just say any international food.
Yeah.
So when they
Gotta
would
come
say,
in,
like, they're
eat
going to
some
take me to these,
kunchi,
like,
yeah.
when they would be like, we're going to take you to these expensive restaurants, like, what do you ever want? I'd be like, well, I want to try this culture food and this culture food,
Yeah.
and I want to go here and here. They would take me to that culture food, but the buffet.
Yeah.
And I would just grub out. And I'm not gonna lie, when being in the system, all the kids around you, like the DARE programs, you grow up and you're always like, I've never found anyone to give me free drugs. In the receiving home, though, you have unlimited access to free whatever you want. It's like you go outside.
Yeah.
and
Girl,
someone-
drugs, alcohol. My daughter took a
Wow.
video with all of this, and I said, "Where are you at?" She said, "Mom, I'm at the receiving home." I said,
So
"What a
what are
Hennessy
they
bottle?"
taking for the parents when they trying to put them in the same, even worse then?
They don't.
It just
They
don't make
don't.
sense. They're
So
just
you
making
got-
money off
Yeah.
our
So
kids.
I've had the director from CPS come
Yeah.
down there. Well, I don't know if he's director. He said he was, but he came and sat at the children's receiving home with me.
Yeah.
And the therapist for the children's receiving home came out. And when they brought my daughter out, she was higher than a kite. My baby right here couldn't even hold her head up. And I said, "You're so high right now.
Yeah.
What are you on?"
Wow.
The director man looks over and puts his hand on my knee all gently. He says, Miss Clark, let's not focus on that. Just let her know how much you love her. I said, let her know how much I love her. My daughter's high as a kite right now, and you don't want to know where she got the drugs, what drug she's on. I said, man, and then we had in that visit, my mom and my auntie, my mom's older sister, they were there with me to witness that.
Mhm.
And then as soon as we left, my daughter left. And I told them, I said, you guys let my daughter leave there high as a kite. Anything can happen to her right now. And she
Yeah.
wouldn't even know. And they said, well, she wanted to leave and we couldn't stop her. So it's like I asked them, how is my kid in your building with drugs? How does my daughter have a fifth of Hennessy in that dorm right now? You guys aren't doing nothing about it.
And she's still underage.
Yeah, they're all minors. At the time, they were like 14, 15 doing this.
Yeah.
We would get drunk, like it would be like an annual little party we would have every about 4 days out of a week,
Yeah.
where we would all go out and we would all steal a bunch of bottles from stores, come back, and we would all get drunk, go swimming in the pool. And the pool's green. Like they stopped cleaning the pool. Us as kids, we didn't care. So we'd swim in the pool, climb on the roof. We would just, it was like, you ever seen the movie, the show Bad Girls Club?
That's
Yeah.
the children's receiving home, except the little
Wow.
kids. They got drunk one time and their friend had a piercing party.
Wow.
I told the staff, I said, your friend. They said, your friend, Kiri. Kiri was your friend at the time. May not be your friend now anyway. This little boy gets drunk with my daughters and all their other friends, and he decides, I'm going to pierce you guys. Everybody's going to get their belly buttons pierced. Everyone's going to get their noses pierced. Everyone's going to get their ears pierced. I told the staff, why didn't you call the police?
Yeah.
I said, first of all, you're an institution allowing piercings to be done without a license. Let's start there. You don't have a
Yeah.
permit
And then let you
to
do
be
that?
giving piercings.
I was
The
not
staff
there.
said, well, what did you want
It
me
was
to
my
do?
other
Just
sister.
go and snatch the needle from the kid? I said, yes. And if
Yeah.
you couldn't do that, why wouldn't you call the police and say, I got a bunch of drunk kids here
Yeah.
piercing each other?
Yeah.
I said, oh, that's right. You don't want to call the police and tell them that, because then your ass going to be in hot water. You're going to have to explain why it's 15 drunk little kids up here right now. So it's like, but I got all that on video. Like, there's a lot that I have on video that I showed the news reporters
Yeah.
as to why they invested thousands and thousands of dollars to fact check everything I said. I'm quoted over 20 times in that newspaper article. So it's like, but still though, what's happening?
Yeah.
The children's receiving home is still there. CPS is still not audited. There's not no real policy in place to help parents.
Yeah.
A lot of parents are doing parenting classes, anger management,
Yeah.
therapy, and they're coming out of pocket for this. because they don't know that when CPS mandates you to something,
Yeah.
they're supposed to pay.
Yeah.
They're supposed to
Wow.
pay for the class. They're
Mhm.
supposed to pay for you to get there. If you don't have a job, they're supposed to help you find a job. They don't do none of that. CPS was the direct reason why I lost 4 jobs and switched career fields 3 times.
Yeah.
How
They
many
need to be
people do you know
accountable.
switching a career field though in
Yeah.
their mid-30s? They just decide, oh, I'm gonna do something 100% different than what I've been doing for years.
Mm.
And they're like, okay, I'm making money. I'm making money. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch and do something 100% different than I've been doing for these past couple years. It's like I went into court and I told the judge, CPS cannot set my family visits 20 minutes outside of a therapy class. Like I gotta get from one side of the town to the other.
Wow.
It got to the point where I testified to this in court and people could pull the transcripts. I told the judge, I said, in order to get from one parenting class to a therapy class, to get to my family visit, to get to work on time, I am literally running red lights and
Yeah.
running through stop signs.
Yeah.
I said it's gotten to the point where I have took both license plates
Yeah.
off my car
Yeah.
so that I can speed through town and not
Yeah.
get 100 red light tickets.
Yeah.
I said, so to the average parent who don't have the car,
Yeah.
or they do, but
Yeah.
they're going to play it by the book,
Yeah.
that's the parent sitting out there crying because they were 5 minutes late for their visit and now they don't get it no more.
Yeah.
I said, so you can't have
Horrible.
I said you can't have workers setting stuff in place like this. So then the judge was like, what are the times? Are you guys giving the mom enough time?
Mm.
And it's like, and parents don't know. Parents don't know to advocate for that, to speak up for that. There's
Right.
also in any courtroom that you go into, you can file a complaint on the judge.
Yeah.
Right? In the state of California, if you file a complaint on a judge, it goes to a panel of judges that sit in San Francisco, and then they'll rule on it. So when I start getting into stuff in family court and said, hey, I want to make a complaint on this judge, they'll direct you to a room where they don't give you the form. So I have it video recorded where I'm telling the lady, you're breaking the law by not providing me the form. She said, well, you could get the form from the internet. I said, and by law, I have the right to get the form from this courthouse, fill it out right now and send it off. By you not providing me the form means you're acting like it doesn't exist. So then the lady wanted me to leave. So Judge Borox, who used to be at family court in Sacramento, got moved to juvenile hall court.
Wow.
But while sitting at juvenile hall court,
Yeah.
she still had pull at the family courthouse, which that's not legal.
Mm.
No judge is allowed to preside over a bench that they're not sitting on.
Right.
Mm.
But she still had pull. Everything that Carlton Davis did, and he went on record to say, I was given this directive from Judge Borox, but she's not in this courtroom no more. And then in juvenile hall, I don't know if people know this, but in the juvenile hall courting system, there is a courtroom called CWEC. And what that is a courtroom for every child who has ever been sex trafficked, ever been raped, ever been molested, or has the potential to be sex trafficked. You will go to Judge Borox's courtroom. Now, the reason why I think that is so sick and disgusting is because, first of all, why are we keeping track of this?
Mm.
Why are we keeping track of the raped kids, the molested kids? And then why are we looking at kids like, that girl got the potential to be molested?
Mm.
She committed a crime. Let's send her to Judge Borox. And I just think it's bizarre that Judge Borox comes from the family court where half of these kids, you took them from their parents, you watched them go through the ruins, and now you're the judge on the bench that says you're going to juvenile hall. She locked one of my kids up one time because they couldn't find placement for her. So I did a whole protest about that. Free the youth that is locked up in the United States of America because CPS is claiming they can't find safe placement for them. So you got in trouble at the receiving home or the group home, go to juvenile hall. But as a parent, my son can literally give my daughter a black eye, break all the windows out of my RV, and if I call the police, they say he can't go to juvenile hall. But if I'm a CPS worker, you gonna come get him and he could just sit in there.
Yeah.
So my daughter went on a hunger strike. She stopped eating. And I told my daughter's lawyer, I said, look, how long can you allow my daughter, your client, to be locked up if she ain't committed a crime?
Yeah.
Bro, there is no trial date. There's nothing to.
Wow.
Every time we go to court, they say they're still looking for placement. I said, file a motion and get my daughter released within the next 48 hours or I'm suing you. That man walked into that courtroom. He said, Your Honor, my client is being stripped of her due process. She's being illegally and detained. He was like, the family's upset. The youth is upset. The youth is no longer eating. And it's like, y'all still want to keep my daughter locked up in here. She's not even eating no more. She's already skinny as all outdoors. So to take a extremely skinny person and start stripping meals, now we're playing with life and death here.
Yeah.
Now we're playing with organs that can be permanently shut down and never work properly again.
Yeah.
And that's what it took for her to get out. And along with me being in front of the receiving home every day saying, free the youth in juvenile hall because this place can't find placement for them.
Yeah. But you spend so much time fighting for your kids with the system than raising your own kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it don't make sense at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I see it, instead of supporting you, and no parent is perfect.
Helping
you
her
know, none
parent.
of us are perfect. Helping the
Or giving
women
you
and
the
the
support.
children, the
Yeah.
support. In fact, they actually use our kids against
Yeah.
us, and that is just what type of system is that? I mean, especially playing with kids' life
Yeah.
and putting them in a foster home, worse than their parents' home. Whatever
Exactly.
how bad we are, they think we, even if we just scream at them, now we are abusing them, but they can take and beat them
Yeah.
up and kill them in prison.
Yeah.
And they're still okay with that. They get away with that. And I just don't know. I mean, what kind of, we have to do something to change that, especially
just
empowering
policy.
women and children.
They
If
need
they
to
put the money into you
yeah,
and
they need to
into
put the
the
money
kids.
into the families
Yeah.
and to the kids. And if anything, have the child's lawyer
Yeah.
be the controlling estate holder
Yeah.
for the money that's being provided for the
Yeah.
kids. See, if they started doing stuff like that and putting those policies in place, you would see a 1000% difference
Yeah.
virtually overnight.
But we gotta demand
You
for
would
that.
also see half of the foster parents drop out of the race
Yeah.
because those are the ones molesting the kids. Those are the ones abusing the kids.
Yeah.
Those are the ones who only want the kid because they want that $5,000 a month check.
Yeah.
They want
Per child.
per child. If you
Wow.
got a bad child, right?
If they give you that 5,000 per child,
Yeah.
you can raise your child
Yeah,
like
you can raise your
nobody's
child.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you kidding?
Yep, and
They
it's
can
for the
get
bad
whatever
kids.
shoes they want.
So,
Even
like,
the bad kids.
yeah,
I
no,
mean, we
But
all
they
have
get more
one more.
money. They get more money. So if your kid
Yeah.
goes into foster care and they're well behaved, they're well mannered, they don't talk back, they don't cuss, which that's how all my kids were when they went into the system. And a lady in court had to come out and tell me. She said, "I don't want you to give up your fight." She said, "Don't you ever give up. Don't you let them win your kids." She said, "Because I remember when your girls first came in here, they were quiet, they were polite, they didn't cuss, they didn't talk back." She said, "Now
Yeah.
I would not know the difference between your kid and one of these other foster kids sitting in the room talking." And I said, "Wow, that's crazy." I said, "Can't you come into court and testify against that?" Like they want to say, "I'm such a bad mom. I'm such a bad mom." My kids never missed school, never missed a doctor's appointment, never stole from the store, never
Yeah.
saw juvenile hall, ever. All of and they were virgins. My children
Yeah.
were not sexually active. They weren't promiscuous. They didn't have boyfriends. And all of that happened in there. And it's
Yeah.
like the person who molested my son, she still has her job till this day. Till this day, she still has her job. They put my son in therapy to understand, did I plant the idea in his head that he was molested or did he really get molested?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then when it was determined that my son was really molested by this worker, I said, "Look, at what point are you going to get an officer in this room
Yeah.
and lay out some mugshot photos and say, 'David, which one of these people touched your penis when you went into the shower?'" I said, "Because you want to keep asking my son what happened but not directly. Like they wouldn't say, 'David, what happened?' They would lay out all
They
these
go
scenario
around,
questions.
around,
Yeah,
yeah.
getting him to talk, right?
Yeah.
So when he would start talking and saying things, he would get up and start breaking stuff. Like he literally destroyed my house to the point where I was like, "We're not doing this therapy no more in my house. We're going to River Oaks Center for Children, and he could put holes in your walls. He could break your tables." First time we did that, my son got up, flung the chair, hit their door. He kicked the cupboard, put a hole in the cupboard. They said, Miss Clark, from now on, we're going to have sessions outside. I said, oh, you see how fast we moved to outdoor sessions when he started tearing up y'all shit? I said, but it took me telling y'all that I live in housing. Housing is issued notices saying if the kids tear up the units, we could get kicked out. And y'all think it's cool to sit here and watch him kick holes into my walls, knock every picture off the wall. I'm like, nah, man. So then after it got discovered where I'm like, you understand my son was molested? You understand it was by a group home staff member? And now you can't do nothing. You're the therapist, and in therapy with my son, you're literally pulling up YouTube videos, lady. What the hell are you? What are we here for? With you for? I said enough is enough. I said, look, I had to go talk to military veterans who were in deep therapy and who had went through a lot to get guidance. What do I do with my son? I said, and when I told them how these therapy sessions were going, they said the best thing I could do for my son, because he's so young, is to bury the memory. That I have the capability to bury the memory deep. And so for a couple years, I thought that I had buried his memory, right? Until maybe like, I want to say a few months ago, I was talking to someone and I didn't think he can hear me. And he was like, look, Mom, I didn't forget nothing that happened to me. Right. I remember that lady touching my penis. I did not forget nothing. I just don't talk about it. And I'm like, wow. So it's like, while he was little, I was able to hide the memory, right? I just kept him busy, kept him doing things. Now that he's older, he remembers. And so it's like, nothing was never done, though. Nothing was never done. And the more my kids said, I'm getting raped, I'm getting molested, the people are touching me, the more they just looked at me like it was you. Let's put the mom on supervised visits. What conversations is she having with her children? And no matter how many workers, I had workers testify in court to say, in all my years of being a CPS worker, I've never seen a mom utilize the room the way Felicia did. Because I would show up with an ice chest full of home-cooked food, fruits and snacks and shit. Then I'd have a bag with art stuff. Then I'd have a bag with like games we could play. I'm not depending on you to have some games in this room you about to put us in. Like, I'm finna come as a real mom would. And so it blew my mind when the lady was like, I've never seen a parent utilize the room the way she did. So then it's like, I start asking the people, well, how long do we have to do this? You know, and that's when I realized way early on, like, we not here to help my kids. We here because I'm in federal court suing the police and I'm my own lawyer and y'all can't stand it. Because anytime I go to the Board of Supervisors office and I would say, I have a problem with CPS. So if people don't know, how do you complain on CPS? You start with their supervisor. And then you go to their main overseeing supervisor. And then you go to the executive director. And then if you feel like none of these people in CPS are listening, they don't care, then you go to the Board of Supervisors. Because the Board of Supervisors is the ones who's supposed to oversee and govern them and make sure they're operating under policy accordingly. So when I go to the Board of Supervisors office, they would say, Ms. Clark, we can't talk to you. And I would say, well, why not? And they would say, well, it's come to our attention that you're in federal court suing some officers and you're your own counsel. So our counsel has advised us not to speak to you about anything. Have a good day. And that's when I started following the motions, telling federal court, hey, take my children from CPS and put my kids into WoodSec. Put my kids with United States Marshals because this abuse wouldn't happen. And it's like nobody listened. So
something got to change.
And I think it would start with this audit. I think if they audit them and then saw how much money is being wasted, how much money is not going to the kids, then they can start to appropriate those funds and then go and crack the whip on places that are hoarding all this stuff for the kids. Like, come Christmas time, that bunker should have been emptied out because every day. And then for all the people who are watching and they're thinking, well, they have to have stuff for the kids that are going to come in. That's understandable to a degree. But there's not 100 kids coming through the door at one time. So why are we holding 100 shoes? There's not 100 kids fun to do art at one time. So why do we got a bunker full of art supplies? You know what I mean?
Just getting ruined because there's
It's
Oh,
just
but
sitting there
it's just sitting
dwindling
there.
away over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Mind you, when
And
I
incorrectly.
asked, my mom would always like every day she would be like, "Baby, do you want to draw? Like, you want to draw with me? You want to paint with me?" Like, I would always be drawing and painting with my mom. When I went in there, I would be like, "I want to draw and paint." They would always be like, "We don't have any art supplies. We don't have any paper. Like, we just have line paper."
Yeah.
Well,
My
everything was rotten in that.
Yeah.
Why are
mom-
they getting their
Story.
pay?
my mom always kept my hair like I believe I have my dad's genes and I have Italian hair. My mom always kept my hair up, like brushed, hydrated. My hair never was bad. I never had dandruff. The first
Oh,
month into
man.
DPS, you would think I had lice. And it was
Just
just
clinical, what do they call, like clinical dandruff, where your scalp is just
Wow.
flaking off onto your
And
Wow.
clothes.
they would sit there and they would be like, "You're not black, so we're not putting this
Yep.
product in your hair." And I'd be like, "But this is what my mom would do to my hair. This is what my mom would do
Because she
for
is
me."
black.
Yeah.
Like, she got
you
black
mix.
in her.
Yeah.
You know what
Like
I
my
mean?
kids. I have
Yeah.
mixed kids.
So it would just get to the point like I would be sitting in the visit itching my head, and my mom would be like, "Stop! You look like you have lice. Like, what's wrong?" And I'd be like, "Mom, my head itches. Like, it hurts. Like, it itches really bad." And when she like looked at my head, you could like my sister got bored one day and just started picking the dandruff out. Like, that's how bad the clumps were.
Wow.
Just because they didn't want to give me a certain type of oil, they didn't even want to let me get coconut oil.
But they're supposed to. So, for people who don't know, when minority kids, black and brown, or mixed children get taken into custody and the white caregivers don't know how to care for them, they are supposed to be taking them to salons with people who know how to care for black hair. They're not doing that. It's
Mm.
selected on when they want to do it and how they want to do it. So, when I told them my son's hair is to be braided every day. And because he's not all black and you just do a single braid, you gotta brush his hair every day because all this gonna get frizzy.
Yeah.
And so they brought my son to me for a visit, and his hair was so knotted and dreadlocked. I was so disgusted. And I had anticipated him to come like this again. So I had my hair stuff with me. So I said, okay, we're gonna do your hair. I kid you not. I took my son's braid out and there was a freaking noogie in my son's hair. So whoever had braided my son's hair literally spit in my son's hair. I got this shit on video. Like, I cannot make this up. I blew my shit. I called the police and was like, get the police up here right now to the family courthouse, because that's where they happened to give me my visit that day. And I was like, they were like, well, they have sheriffs in there. I said, yep, and their sheriffs ain't finna take a report. I said, but somebody finna come up here and look at my son's head. And in the end, they did not never want to send the police up there. So the police will never go to where police already govern.
Yeah.
And it's just frustrating until you set shit off with the police. And I wasn't trying to do that. I was going to visit with my kids. So I just took out my phone and had my other daughter to video and then take photos while I was doing his hair. And then I filed complaints with that. A lot of the complaints I started to file with community care licensing. That's who you call. If you got a problem with the group home, if you got a problem with the foster home, you call community care licensing. They're the ones that investigate. Well, they had been just shadow banning my complaints because this one particular episode, a lady had got the complaint from my son, and I had called right back for one thing or another, got a different lady, and she ended up investigating and telling me that there's a case open on my son and it was unfounded. And I said, how is it unfounded? Nobody even went and talked to him. Like, what's going on here? And so she starts going deep into it. And she's like, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm going to get to the bottom of it. And I'm going to investigate this. And that's when she went and told me, your son was molested. Your son is being neglected.
Wow.
We are going to substantiate these claims for you. And
Yeah.
I got it in text message. So
Mhm.
That's when they sent him back. Like, after that happened, like one day, like they just had brought him back, and that from that day, my brother ran up and like jumped because he was so skinny and malnourished. Like, they weren't feeding him
I
at
got
all.
video. They took it down on Instagram, but I could literally, this was my son's arm. This was my son's arm. Like, no joke. When I grabbed his arms and measured them, I'm like, son, I can measure your arms with my fingers. And he's sitting on a couch and he's just screaming and screaming and screaming. And somebody on Facebook was like, why would you videotape your kid sitting there screaming? I said, because the CPS worker is sitting here doing this.
Yeah.
And I don't have no way to show this to nobody unless I video record it.
Yeah.
And so after a while, I just started to video record them. I even had Judge Carlton Davis go as far as to say that when CPS comes to my house, I am to turn off my home video surveillance inside.
Wow.
Inside. But I said, you cannot order me to turn the video surveillance off on the outside exterior of my property. That's a violation of my constitutional rights. I said, and even daring to tell me to turn the cameras off in my home is a violation of my rights. He said, well, you can't record CPS. I said, okay. I said, well, what about when a
Then you
CPS
can
worker
record it, in fact.
is sending investigators to my house? So
Yeah.
one time, Lazanique Craft was a CPS worker, and she sent another CPS worker to my house to investigate what she heard.
Mhm.
Which was, I told my son, sit down and eat your food or I'm going to give you a chili. And he said, oh, no hot, no hot, no hot. And he sat down. She said that was abuse. Then when I told her that I gave her soap in the mouth, that was abuse.
I deserved that. She
So-
gave me a chili and I laughed at her. She
Yeah.
said, eat the chili, and I ate the whole thing. Because when I was little, I used to just like bite it
So
and cry.
look, she ate the chili and laughed. I gave her the soap. So then CPS said that I had abused my son, but that I had tortured and abused her, because when I had abused her with the chili, it wasn't enough. So because her abuse didn't suffice to me, is how they worded it. Because it didn't suffice to me, I had to up my abuse. So now I'm having her eat chemicals.
And it
I
was
said, first of all,
funny.
she didn't eat the soap. The
I rolled
soap
my
was to
tongue.
be put in her mouth. And
That's
so
good.
every year when that movie comes out, A Christmas Story,
We laugh.
and he puts the soap in his mouth, I'm like, that's child abuse. That's straight. My kids got took for that. Like, no
Yeah.
joke. My kids got took for that, and I was told that I'm a horrible bad parent.
It's crazy because my tongue never touched the soap. Like that little kid was spitting bubbles out. I rolled my tongue in the back, and when she pulled the bar out, she was so confused because it was dry.
Yeah.
And she was like, what did you do? And I was like, I rolled my tongue back. She was like, go sit on the porch. I'm done. Go sit on the
Yeah.
porch.
Like, I
Yeah.
just went,
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't even
Okay.
taste the soap. Like the soap, like there was no indents in the teeth. Like no.
but yeah,
nothing.
so look, to get off of, because we got off track, the whole point of bringing that up was the CPS worker called CPS on me. So one day I'm sitting there, I get a knock at the door, CPS worker, telling me she's here to investigate. I said, oh no, I'm done with this shit. I'm done. I said, look, you ain't coming in my house. You ain't talking to my kids. She didn't want to leave. I called the police on her. You can call the police on CPS and have them took out of your house. So these backward states and countries, be careful. But if you live in Sacramento, California, and you tell the people, get off my property because you're an investigator, you're not the worker, the police will come and make her leave. So the police came at first. They was like, oh, well, she's a worker. I said, look, I have a CPS worker. Her name is Lazanique Craft. This broad ain't her.
Yeah.
She's an investigator. I said, and at the end of the day, I don't give up my Fifth Amendment right. I don't have to talk to an investigator or allow my children to talk to an investigator without the presence of a lawyer.
Yeah.
I said, so how about this? You got your body camera rolling? You, her, me, and my kid come in my house and we'll all have a conversation. He said, okay. She said, I can't allow that. I said, see, she don't want to allow that because no matter what my kid says right now, this twisted broad is going to flip it around to suit their agenda. And I ain't going for it. I said, look, we've been through too much. I'm not doing this no more. I said, get her off my property right now, or I will defend myself and my offspring in the privacy of my own home. And when I acted like I was finna lunge towards that door, that officer got frisky. He was, you come on. And he rushed that lady out my house. I said, look, at the end of the day, tell her go get the real CPS worker. I'll let the worker in here.
Yeah.
She could come talk to my kids, but we're not doing this investigative stuff where my kids don't get lawyers no more. That's just not going to happen. And so every time after that, they would come to the door and say, oh, we're going to investigate. And I'd pull out my phone and say, well, I'm going to record you in this entire conversation. So what do you want to talk about? They turn around and walk away. So I'm like, okay. So I told the courts, how can you guys put a policy in place to say, we're going to send a CPS worker out to talk to your kid, but no cameras can record them, no audio can record them, and no lawyer can be present? I said, this is
Restricting them,
ridiculous.
yeah.
This is
They
ridiculous.
human being.
And they're not even a government entity. So
Mm.
people think that CPS is government. They're
It
not.
isn't? That's
No.
why it's many making
Yeah.
machine now.
CPS is
I mean,
a
that's why-
private
You
organization.
kidding.
Nope.
That's why so many people are
No,
intimidated.
Yes.
that's why our kids are dying every day. Why
And
would you make CPS?
They need to be. They
just like
need to be a
jail.
government
Just-
agency. The
yeah.
government needs to be
Yeah.
overseeing them.
Yeah.
And then the things that are happening.
But
what
the
has
government
happened.
is paying them though.
Yeah,
Even though they're private
because they're the
companies,
dirty.
they're getting the
bags.
funds from the.
But they always get a
from
step
the
back and say,
federal-
"I didn't know. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know."
But the thing is, if government is funding them,
Mhm.
you see what I mean? The government should be accountable who they're funding.
Yeah.
Now, because our kids, if they make us accountable as a parent, that they're not making the CPS, they're getting funded from the government. They're getting fund from the state money.
They
They're
take
getting
trips.
money from the county money,
Look at
the city
when
money.
when one of my CPS workers was getting caught up. Michelle something, I forget her name. I think Michelle
Yeah,
Buchanan.
CPS can be
That lady ran to Africa.
private.
That lady ran to Africa, testified in court. I'm not going to be here because I'm going to Africa. I said, wow, that's the fourth vacation she took this year. How's she doing that on a CPS worker salary?
Yeah.
And the courts just looked at me like, Miss Clark, we have called the next case. Why are you still sitting here?
Wow.
And so I'm just like, I could tell y'all all the grotesque abuse this worker did. And now she get to take a trip to Africa. I'm like, wow,
So you
okay.
can't
Still
sue the
working?
CPS then if they're private.
No, you can sue them.
Yeah.
So you can sue them as individuals and you can sue CPS as an entity. You
Yeah.
just would want to aim higher. Like I wouldn't take an entity into small claims court.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take an entity
No.
into superior court.
Yeah.
I would take an entity
To the
into
high-
federal
yeah,
court.
Yeah.
So yeah, and
Uh,
people are under that misconception, like, oh, I can't sue CPS, I can't sue the workers. Like I just explained to everybody how me and my son did it. And while my son was in CPS custody, I filed for guardian of enlightenment and got it appointed. So if you have the knowledge, right,
Yeah.
or you even know how to search up the legal stuff you're looking for and then retain that information, then you can really go fight for your kids.
But
So-
but the question I have, how if the CPS is a private company, we get audited as small businesses. They like on our neck every day all day, the government, especially the state.
It's from the
So,
Clinton administration.
Yeah,
So the
how
Clinton
they are
administration
not
started it.
auditing, especially when a private
'Cause it's-
company
it's
and
called,
the government taxpayers' money is paying them.
It's called Title V funding that was put in place by the Clinton administration when Bill Clinton was president. And so
Clinton-
what him and Hillary did was they started Title V funding, which means there's so much money pulled out from the federal government every year set aside for current foster kids and potential foster kids. So the way it works is the more kids you take, the more money you get.
Oh my!
So it's an
gosh. So they're
incentive
making
now
money
to
off
take
our
children.
kids.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
It's an incentive to take our
Yeah.
kids. What's disgusting is when this whole wall business first went up, 2,400 Latino children disappeared at the American border. They went into foster care
yeah.
and nobody has heard nothing from them since.
Wow.
Nobody knows what state these kids went to.
Wow.
Nobody knows what homes these kids went to. Not even the parents know because they were foreigners. So they got kicked back to their country, and then our country said, we don't have to talk to you no more.
Yeah.
But now you got these kids that
Yeah.
are just turned out running rampant. Like, for example, when I was protesting one time, I think he was like, I don't know. I know he was Latin. I don't know if he's Mexican, Venezuela, Cuban, whatever. I don't know. But what I do know is he was pissed off that I was protesting. And he said, you're ruining a good thing here. I said, what do you mean I'm ruining a good thing here? He said, we get a bed, we get clothes, we got a little food.
Oh, I know you're talking about.
He was like, but you want to come and tell the people, shut down. Why you want to shut down? I said, you're high as a kite, little man, and you drunk, standing in front of the receiving home. This is not okay in America, baby. You're not supposed to do this. You allowed to drink in your country? Yeah. But not in America, baby. That's the problem with this.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think about that all the time because it's like, to some little kids, this is heaven on earth.
Yeah.
But to American kids, this is hell on earth.
Yeah.
Because they know what's going on isn't right. Like the little kid couldn't see his parent, right? He jumped the border without his parent. His mom told him to flee the country. We not telling our babies to flee.
This is their opportunity.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, people come from all over the world for that opportunity. Well, our kids, your kids, and the people who've been here and born here are not taking that opportunity, and instead they get
though.
and instead the system actually uses them to make more money through CPS, through the prison system, through the jail system.
And then what they're not paying attention to, which a statistic needs to be pulled on that, is all of the children that are having babies in foster care.
Even going to jail.
So,
They're the one who the highest one.
Don't get your kid.
Yeah, when you're a minor and you have a baby in foster care, your baby is automatic property of the state.
Wow.
The minute you birth your baby, they're taking it from you.
Wow.
And then when you're an adult and you get your baby back, like she said, you got the one time to mess up and they're taking the kid. But 99% of these girls, they're not getting their babies back when they turn 18.
And that baby,
them are the ones who like were
mama.
17, about to turn 18 and had the baby. But the minute they find any reason to take it, your baby is took. So it's like my daughter who passed away, I have her CPS worker, Suzanne Thompson, on text message coercing my daughter to go spend the weekend with boys.
What?
She broke my family visit, had my daughter picked up and took to her boyfriend's house. And so I told my daughter, like, we got in a big old fight because I said, look, if you think you're that grown now, stay the hell away from me. Because I don't like who you are. I didn't raise you to be this way. I didn't raise you to do drugs and run the streets and sleep with boys and do all this stuff.
Culture, though,
but it's the lady picking her up. So then my daughter told the worker, she said, I don't want to talk to you no more because I'm in a lot of trouble with my mom. And that lady texted her back and said, well, did you tell your mom that you broke up with Tamari? And are you still seeing them? Or is that just what you're telling your mom? And my daughter's like, look, leave me the hell alone. And she's like, well, I'm just trying to be your friend. Right there, you're not her friend.
Not a friend.
You're a freaking CPS worker.
Yeah.
So I told my daughter, I said, look, I said, it's the reality, baby. That lady wants you to get pregnant.
Yeah.
I said, that's why she's breaking the law. Because it's the law, right? We had a set scheduled family visit. It's court order, which means it's mandatory. I said, for this lady to take you from our family visit and go drop you off somewhere, she just broke a court order. She personally violated it. And when I was able to expose this shit to the court and told Carlton Davis, this lady is sexually exploiting my daughter. She is dropping her off at boys' houses to spend the weekend where she didn't even take the time to do a home check. Because had she walked into the houses she was dropping her off at, she wouldn't have been able to leave her there. And I know because my daughter told me, like, I had to clean up so much, Mom, and just to stay there. And so when I told her, I said, look, baby, you are in the system's hands right now. I said, if you have a baby, do you think that they're going to come let me get my grandbaby when they won't even let me have you? I said, Felicia, the minute you get pregnant and have your baby, they're going to snatch your baby, dude. Wake up. I said, you girls are nothing but a cash cow to this industry. Because, and then I told her, I said, look, that day I came out of court crying and I cussed at you guys. And I said, don't you ever tell me that I love you, or you more than the next. I said, because they just told me that if I sign you girls over to the system, I can have my son today. You can walk out with him free and clear. I said, you just hung my kids over a cliff and asked me to let my girls go so I can get my son. I'm going to let them all go because they're all going to come back up to me. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to pick and choose. So I told her, I said, Felicia, If it was so easy to just give y'all away, I'd have made the choice that day and I'd have took
Yeah.
my son and been gone because he was a baby. He didn't know. He was like 5 years old when this was going on. I was like, you girls leave these homes all the time. You pop up on me. You guys get on the phones and call me. My son can't do that. So I was like, you want to go and sleep with these boys? You want to go and spend weekends with boys? I was like, don't come see me no more. I was like, 'cause you get pregnant and they kidnap my grandbaby, I'm going to lose my shit. And so right there, she was like, no, I'm good, Mom. I'm so sorry, Mom. She was just telling me, I'm so sorry, Mom. I wasn't thinking about it that way. I never thought about it that way. So,
Because she's young.
Yeah.
We were
Really.
young and
I'm
make
so
mistakes,
sorry.
once in all of us. And we forget
yep.
how young, stupid we were once
Yeah.
upon a time. But the system is making money off their not knowing.
Yeah.
Is what is sickening.
And then, so
You
that's
know?
when I always think, how many girls,
Yeah.
how many girls are having babies?
Yeah.
Because your worker took you to that boy's house. Or
Mm.
your worker turned a blind eye when this man came and picked you up.
Yeah.
Like for a minute, I don't know if it was her or my other daughter, but someone had came and picked them up, and I was like, how do y'all know
Yeah.
that she just walked out of the group home, got into the car with a grown man, and drove off? She was like, well, what did you want me to do? Stand in front of the car, lady, and tell me
Yeah.
you're not leaving with this little
They're
girl
not-
today.
They're
Yeah.
not taking care of the kids.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
said
Oh,
that.
well.
She said that's not my job description. I'm not supposed to put my life in harm's way. I said, well, did you at least write down the license plate? Did you call the fucking cop? Like, did you get a description of the car? Did you say what direction they went in? I said that could be the last time my kid's ever going to be seen. And your only standpoint is this isn't your job description.
Yeah.
But nothing ever happened, and she was raped. It was her because she was raped. She was raped, beat, sodomized, the whole nine. And
You know
the
what?
dude lived right around the corner.
The system failed your daughter so badly. Not
Miserable.
only your daughter,
There's so
but
many.
all your children. The most tragic victim in all this was Felicia.
Yeah.
But I have to say that it's remarkable the way that you have had to learn all these different laws and all these different rules
Mm.
to be able to be at this point right now and be able to share them with all these people that might be going through the same thing and not know what to do.
And we got to make some different change too. We got to fight for policy. We have to, because that, like you were saying, you're going to be the voice for the other girls, and boys don't have that voice, and those mothers who are
Yeah.
suffering like you. I mean, this is America.
I was not aware of everything that you said. I was a foster child and I had some things happen to me too, but not to the depth of what happened to your children. And I just, I'm just appalled that this is happening with people that are supposed to be helping the children.
Yeah.
They're supposed to help. They're supposed to be able to bring the children back into the family, not take them and put them at more risk,
Yeah.
or make them
Make
them
money
damage
of them
victims of trafficking or victims of drugs.
and
that-
death.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Do you know
death.
how many parents? So I went to YouTube because I didn't know what else to do. So I was like, let me look up crazy CPS horror stories.
Yeah.
Have you ever typed that in your search engine?
Oh my gosh.
So what people don't talk about is all the moms and dads who killed themselves,
Yeah.
who have
Because
literally
of
killed
that.
themselves because they couldn't take this. And then no one's looking at the statistical facts on how many youth have killed themselves or tried to kill themselves, not because they were in a bad situation, right? It's because they can't see their parent,
Yeah.
right? Not all kids were molested and gruesomely beat. Like I whooped my kids. I whooped my kids when they grew up. But to the degree where my kids needed to be took, no. My kids didn't have black eyes. My kids didn't have broken limbs. My kids weren't stuffed in closets. Like at the end of the day, my kids didn't miss school. So
Well,
you
they
know,
certainly didn't need to be taken from you to be put in a situation where they're going to be given drugs and alcohol.
yeah,
It's
And
even
be
worse.
Yeah.
and be in a worse situation than what they were at home.
yeah.
At the same time, what I really honestly don't get about the system is the way how my culture, how I'm raised, how you raise your child is different. So if I am disciplining my child in a different way, if you can beat up my child out there and kill my child as a police officer,
Why can't I whoop my child behind this
my
door?
child,
Yeah.
if they're doing wrong, if I don't whip them, tomorrow you're going to be killing my kids. That's
Exactly.
what is happening right now because every child is different. Not all children needs their whip, you know.
Yeah. Some just
I
need to
came
be
from
talked to.
7 kids. 2 of my sisters always got their whipping back. You know what I mean? Because they always got out there and doing things, but they're not really bad people. They were just doing.
Just bad
They were
kids
young,
doing bad
bad
kid
kids.
stuff.
But my dad used to show them like the whipping. That was the culture I grew up with, and we are all grateful to that.
Yeah.
If we didn't get that whipping, then we wouldn't be who we are when we grow up. So everybody has a different culture of disciplining your child.
What's crazy though is that when my kids were in the system, this one broke into my mom's house, not to like steal or nothing. She broke in because she wanted to go home, but my
Yeah.
mom was at work. So my mom, like the neighbors ended up calling and stuff like, Artie, your lights are on. Like, we're gonna send the police over there. So she's calling me like, did one of your kids go to my house? Like, I'm getting calls at work. So I'm like, I don't know, let me figure it out.
Yeah.
So it is discovered like, okay, it's better. So now I'm sitting in my mom's front room with my daughter, 2 cops, the CPS worker, and her therapist. And I'm telling the police, I'm like, look, y'all
Yeah.
can't make her get up. And the cop is like, no, but you can. The CPS worker's like, well, we don't want to see nothing physical. We would like her to use verbal commands. I said, look, but we ain't trying to hear that. I said, at the end of the day, if I was your baby mama, if I was your little sister, if I was your wife, and you came home to this bullshit,
Yeah.
what would you tell me to do to this little girl? I want to know right now.
Yeah.
He said, I would look at you, I would give you my belt, and I would tell you to beat her ass, and I would turn around while you did it.
Yeah.
I said, bam. He said, look, here's the thing. You can snatch her up right now, whoop her ass. We're not taking you to jail. We'll sit here and watch you. I said, yeah, but if I do that, the CPS worker is not going to let me see my
Yeah.
son this weekend.
Yeah.
And he was like, how old is your son? I think at the time he was like 6, but he was so tall. Now my son's 12 and he's taller than me. So the cop said, you only got, and he raised my hand up. He said, about this much more time, and they ain't going to be able to use your son like that no more
Yeah.
against you. They was like, but just so you know, if you hit her right now,
Yeah.
we're not taking you to jail.
Yeah.
And then it's like, even now, my son's starting to cut up to where I'm like, okay, you doing stuff. The police is out here to where the police was like, look, your mom got every right to whoop your ass. You broke your grandma's window on her RV, smacked her boyfriend with a stick. Like, you probably deserve to get a whooping right now, dude. And your mom got every right to do it. And so I'm just like, man, the cop told me, he was like, I remember you from CPS. You were protesting and stuff. And he was like, man, I was like, yeah, now this is the stuff that my son's doing. So, talking, taking, none of that stuff's working. I'm going to hit him. And the cop was like, I don't blame you, mom.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. And so it's like, when you look at the system,
Yeah.
right? You have a cop sitting here saying, whoop that kid's ass because they deserve it. And as the law, I am telling you, they messed up. You should hit them. And then it's the worker saying, don't do that. If you hit her, you won't see her. But you can't make her get up. You can't make her listen. Me and the cop can. He can snatch her up and handcuff her. I can snatch her up and whoop her ass. But what is you and your talking getting us right now? Nowhere. We sat in this house until the cop was like, look, you're going to get up and leave with your mom. And they was like, she can't leave with mom. She has to leave with us. They're like, you're going to get up and leave with them, or we're taking you to juvenile hall. We're not going to sit here all night and do this, because we had spent hours, literally hours in my mom's front room trying to get her to leave. And so I'm just like, man, when you got a system so torn, how are we supposed to really educate parents here, right? When you got a cop saying whoop your kid's ass and you have a CPS worker saying no,
We'll take
as
it
a
out,
parent, what are you supposed to do?
They confused. The system is confused, especially when it comes to our kids, black kids, underserved, underrepresented kids, and they're making money off our kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're not even scared because under God, governments was supposed to actually take care of our kids when we're not even taking care of them.
Yeah.
But if the government is out there even actually using money, making money of our kids, what is the fair, especially our kids here?
It's just a cash business.
Yeah, it's a business to them. Our kids are business,
Until they get
especially
audited.
the underserved,
Yeah.
underrepresented kids, and the mental health in our kids.
Exactly.
It's pandemic right now.
Oh, so the downside to that is children in foster care only have to see a psychiatrist for 1 hour, and they get psychotropic or medicated drugs. You got children on drugs that they won't even give adult males in prison no more because it sparks homicidal,
Wow.
suicidal rage.
Yeah.
But they'll give it to these children after seeing them for 1
And
hour.
then they get addicted to it. Now they're
Yeah.
acting if they don't get
Mhm.
it.
Now you got them in the streets looking for other synthetic drugs that mocks this drug
Yeah.
because they can't get this drug. So yeah, it's
But
crazy.
you know, we need to make the people accountable, like you were saying. The state, they giving these people
If
money.
they just audit them,
The
they would
county-
say,
the
wow, you're
county
paying this much
supervisors.
for a psychiatrist, this
Yeah.
much for a therapist, this much for a counselor.
What is the
If
result?
they audited
Yeah.
how much money was being spent on
Yes. Each child.
it's what is the tropic? It's high dose mental meds.
Yeah.
Right? You got children on Seroquel, children on Paxil, children. You got children taking medication that our veterans get. Okay, they went overseas, they saw things, they did things, they came back, they getting pills. You got kids in foster care, saw a doctor for 1 hour, they get the same pills.
Yeah.
But if
It's
I take
sickening.
my kid to a doctor, right? I took her to a psychiatrist, and this is how I know what CPS is doing is illegal. It's against the law, but no one's catching them. I took this baby at the school's request to a psychiatrist because they want to know what's going on with her. She just wouldn't sit down. She wouldn't listen to the teacher. She getting up, walking around, talking, but she don't got no ADHD. She don't got hypertension. There's nothing medically wrong with her. So they was like, okay, it's not a medical issue. Take her to the psychiatrist. So if you're struggling with your kids and your kids are in public school, private school, and even online school, you can request for an assessment to be done with your child to figure out what their behavioral problems are as far as you're a kid and you're doing this, right? So they gave her an IEP. She had all this behavioral stuff going on, but it's like when I took her to the psychiatrist, that lady spent, I think we had an hour and a half, 2 hour long sessions. And we saw this lady for the better part of 3 months. Once a week. For 3 months, we went and saw this lady. And she told me, every time your daughter comes in here and I'm talking to you and I'm talking to her, I'm talking to you, and she's sitting right there playing with the toys. I'm assessing her. I'm evaluating her. From the time she's walked through this door, she's been under my doctor microscope. She said, and my conclusion I've come up with your daughter is this is not a medication issue. She said, your daughter has a behavioral issue because of how you lived your life with her from 0 to 5. Because I was a gangbanger, I was a dope dealer. I did a lot of crazy shit when I had her at 17. I was a high school dropout. Yeah. So I lived my life the only way I knew how until she turned 5. And then I'm a mom of 3. And so it's like I went back, got back in with the church, gave my life to God, quit gang banging. Yeah, I quit gang banging, quit doing drugs, quit doing all of that. But what she had seen, what she had, and in my mind, I'm thinking that I kept her sheltered and protected. I'm thinking when I'm outside getting into these fights and she's inside that everything's okay. I'm thinking that because my daughter never saw me hand nobody no drugs, but she just saw me get money, that's okay. And so her whole thought process was different. But when the doctor was like, look, she is fine. She is making choices every day to do good and to do bad. She said, and the bottom line is there's such a profound difference between her and your other kids, because by the time you had all your other kids, you were in college, you worked every day. So all they saw was mom goes to college, mom goes to work. That's it. And then we go do family stuff. They were like, but she saw mom as a high school dropout, mom as a gangbanger, mom as a gun-toting, gun-slanging drug dealer. Her mind is different. And right now she's distinguishing right from wrong on a real deep level.
Yeah.
Because she's seeing you do right every day. But in the back of her mind, she thinking, hey, we thugs over here.
Yeah.
She's like, so the therapist said, I'm not going to put her on drugs. I recommend that she not be on drugs. And now we just do counseling or find social activities for her. And I was like, okay. I said, so that's it then? She said, yeah, basically you're going to be on an emotional roller coaster with your daughter
Yeah.
until she plateaus and decides, oh shit, I don't like it here.
Yeah.
I'm in juvenile hall. I'm in trouble. I'm locked up. I don't like it here.
Yeah.
She said, or she's going to hit the sky high part and be like, hey, I go to college. My mom went to college. Like all of our friends work. We don't hang out with gangbangers.
Yeah.
We don't do that stuff. It was like, but it's ultimately gonna be up to her to make that decision. She was like, but just stay on track, mom. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep going to school. Keep working. Keep showing her this is a positive member of society. And eventually she'll come over to the other side. That's what we want to hope. She was like, can't make no promises because kids are gonna be kids. She's her own person. She was like, but as long as you keep that good home front there, she'll eventually change. So when she went into the system and their first reaction was medicate her.
Yeah.
I said, first of all, I hold all medical rights to my children. I hold all educational rights. How do you got her seeing a doctor that I don't know? I don't know, never spoke to him, never saw him, never saw the prescriptions that were written for her. And then here's the bigger kick to that gut is you have doctors writing prescriptions that no one's paying attention to. Who's to say she got all the prescriptions written for her?
That's what I'm saying.
Who's to say how many prescriptions were written for her? Because nobody's auditing it. Nobody's watching it. And when you take kids from them and you have not stripped their parents of all their rights, but you say, oh, well, we're going to take you to this doctor over here. It's like, it makes no sense at all. So that's another thing I always wanted CPS to be audited for, is for the doctors on their team with their private entity. Who is watching y'all? Right?
It's not fair on our
Nobody.
kids, though. It's
No.
not fair on, because she would have had a chance. That's what I mean, with my daughter, I have the same problem because she wants to be out there. She wants to make mistakes, but she's smart and brilliant, at the same time. But they will get over it once they're 25, 26, And then the culture here is the culture where our kids are. It's a money culture, sex culture, in drug culture, in gun violence culture. So where do you find the young people until they get out of that eventually once they get older? So until we tackle that culture, if you say, like for me, what is my culture? You go to Ethiopia, where I'm from, the culture is religion. Whether you're Muslim and Christian, whatever it is, the foundation of our where I'm from is a religion. So where you found 80% of the youth Sunday is at the mosque or at the church. Or there. Where are youth? Come on. Where do you find them? All of us. I'm serious. Because if we don't, as a parent,
kids to Ethiopia.
as a parent, I mean, everybody has but as a kid, you kids has to be safe. And this is a Western country that has so much money. If we don't feel our kids are not safe, even when the parents are not there, if the government does not invest in them and take care of them, they're failing us miserably. Because when they go to school, it's not our role.
It's not even about failing us
Failing
as
the parents,
because
failing the
eventually
kids,
we're gonna die.
the youth.
And they're here,
What
right?
about the youth?
Yeah.
Because we're too busy
What's the world
working.
gonna look like?
Yeah,
without
but
the youth.
here's the thing though, when you're taking kids that brains are still growing
Yeah,
and you're
they're still
putting so much
young.
drugs into them, mental drugs, they're called psychotropidelic, something like that, right? This is
And
long
it's
messed
easy
up word,
access too for them.
but yeah, but it's
Well, it affects
basically
the chemistry of the mind.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's re-altering it,
Yeah.
right? It's doing so much damage. That's why I'm just like,
And it is on their face. It's like
Yeah.
it's not it's hard to find, you know. They can find a drug for $5, for $10. We were talking to Mama Javon last time. Her
Yeah.
19-year-old just passed away in
oh
5
yeah,
minutes.
thought he was getting a
Fentanyl.
perk or something, and it's fentanyl.
Fentanyl. So we really, as parents, we really need to make the government in the city, the county, accountable
Yeah.
because they're the one who's paying
Mhm.
for this for the CPA. If they don't take care of our kids, why are they taking our kids then? You see what I mean?
They
So-
all turn away. So like the board of supervisors turn a blind eye. If
They
you go
all
to
do.
7-Eleven,
Including the
P
governor.
Street,
We need
yeah.
to make the governor accountable too. He has the budget. He's the one who's giving the fund to them.
the California Department of Health, right? It's
Yeah.
7-Eleven P Street.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be overseeing CPS
Yeah,
too. They
yeah,
don't. They
yeah,
ignore the
yeah.
whole situation
They're
too.
all these government workers, to be honest, for me, they are useless as hell because they just sit there and get some money, get paid. As long as our kids are in there and make it whatever,
Yeah.
all they care about is they getting that salary monthly pay. How are they gonna get it even though our kids dying every day on the street? They don't care. And that is what has to change because our taxpayers, me and you, everybody work
Yeah.
so hard to put that in there so our kids can be protected. Our communities can be protected even when we're not, when we're failing. You see?
Yeah.
So, but I don't see it like that. In fact, the government, they spend nearly $100,000 per child for prison and jail system. Imagine if they in 100,000 per child, the governor pays from the taxpayers' money. They spend nearly 100,000. They eat
Yeah.
that garbage food.
Yeah.
But they paying private companies.
So where's the money
100,000.
going?
That's what I'm saying to these private
That's why
companies.
it's all
It's going to
it's
these
all a money
private
game.
companies.
It's all a money
And instead
game.
of
Our
investing
children
the
are
money into the mothers in the family,
And then
they
we pay
invest it
them.
into
When
big
our kids go to
companies.
juvenile hall, we get a bill for that. It's called
That's what-
restitution.
yeah, but
So,
but the company who
so
owns
the
those,
government got paid for my kid to go to juvenile hall,
Yeah.
and then they doubled down and billed me.
yeah, they get paid
Oh my
because
god!
the whole value chain from your child being taken from this and this, everybody gets paid. You see what I mean? The whole-
I knew
from the
everyone
court
got paid, but
system,
I didn't know they
all
were
the
paying
way
for the
to the
kids
club.
to be locked
Yeah,
up when we're
100,000.
paying.
Yeah, we pay.
Like that's crazy.
I know. So
Yeah.
my question is now, you've navigated this system for years now.
Mhm.
You have been up and down and sideways, and you've learned so much about the laws and all the rules and the regulations that deal with children in these homes. What can we do for you? How can we help stop this? How can we help bring
Oh, change.
have these facilities audited? How can we help?
A senator, that's what it's going to take, is a California state senator has to get on the phone and be a whistleblower and say, I want this entity audited. And then when they figure out, first of all, how much money is going in there and where it's going, then they can start to appropriately move the funds around, right? Policy needs to be put in place so that CPS is no longer a private entity. They need
Yeah.
to be a government entity
Yeah,
held to by
I
government
agree.
standards.
I agree.
And then, I think, in my opinion anyway, that's the only way change is going to occur. Like, because people ask all the time, they're like, well, Felicia, you got your kids back. Why are you still going after them?
Yeah.
Because
And
we
it's
care
like-
about the other children.
It's like I told them, when they took my kids, they woke up a sleeping giant.
Yeah.
And I will never go back to sleep. I will never stop talking about this until true change has happened.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what needs to happen in Sacramento is the children's receiving home needs to be moved from Watt and Auburn Boulevard to a better location. I mean, there's buildings everywhere. There's buildings on McClellan Air Force Base that aren't being used that are the same size as the Children's Receiving Home. We can move them there.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many places around Sacramento that has the land. They have the buildings already up. Look at Walmart for crying out loud. Every time Walmart closes down, they leave their building standing there. Why aren't these buildings being turned into sanctuaries or hubs for children? I mean, you have
Yes.
organizations coming out now that say
Resources.
they're
caring
helping the youth,
specialists.
right? They're helping the
Yeah.
youth in foster care. Well, why are there organizations helping youth in foster care, right? What's going on with that funding that's already supposed to be there for the youth in foster care? It's like, I think that's the only way that parents will start to see real change. And then I think the biggest thing is that family courts need to start having jury
Oh,
trials.
yeah.
Family
court is the
courts need to
worst.
have jury trials, and
Yeah.
they need to be open. Like, and I understand, like, people are going to be uncomfortable because they're like, oh, well, this is my kid and this is going on. Okay, well, when you're a criminal, that's not a secret. You could beat your kid, get to jail, and the whole world gets to see that play out. But what happens on in that family courtroom between you and your kid and the judge, nobody gets to see it.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, you got too
Yeah.
much room for error when that happens. Like, the judge literally, I took my CPS case to trial twice. And the first time we all got to sit in the room. The second time, the Judge Borox, had my children removed from the courtroom, where she got to go into another courtroom and question my kids without me sitting there. And it's like, when you hear the questioning, I'm in the courtroom going off. And I'm cursing to the microphones because they couldn't hear me. I was muted. I wasn't allowed to speak. I wasn't allowed to ask questions. All I was allowed to do was listen. And, they said that there would have been a time for me to ask questions. Like, my lawyer was supposed to come in, ask me something. And I said, why don't you go ask the judge? How many times is she going to question my son and reword her question to my son to get the answer she's looking for? Why she ain't accepting the answer that he gave her? He said, is there a question you want me to ask your kids? I said, there's not a damn thing I want you to ask my kids. I want you to ask the judge. I said, well, I don't need to ask my kids nothing, man. Ask my kids if I told them to come in here and lie, or I told them to come in here and tell the truth. Since that's the one thing she want to beat my 5-year-old son up about in such a roundabout way. So it's like, at the end of the day, listening to that, it was traumatizing, because it's like, I asked her when she came back in too, how can you as a judge take my kids into another room and question them when we're supposed to have this trial together? You had your influence. Yeah, I said you had your influence and your eye looks to give my kids. But I, as their parent, couldn't provide the comfort to know that my kids are right here by me. But in her mind, I'm a no good piece of shit mom, don't deserve to have my kids. So why am I talking to her about how my kids feel? Because if I cared about how my kids feel, they wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But it's like, come on now. So it's like, no matter who I try to talk to about that in the government, there's nothing, there is no rules in place to stop a judge from taking kids out of a courtroom into another courtroom by herself and questioning them so that the parent could just sit in the room and listen to it. You couldn't do that in criminal court. You couldn't do that in probate court. You couldn't do that in small claims court. But you can do it in family court. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
That family court honestly needs to be also updated and changed. So many parents suffer. Honestly, I mean, I had a a lady in Ethiopia, maybe, was in fact they put her son into this court system because they were getting divorced. The kid, I mean, I saw him from the time he was born until he's in jail. He ended up killing his own parents because he went through hell through that family court system. They put him through hell. So this court system, especially the family court, I pray I don't end up in that. Honestly, it's like the devil system
Yeah.
because it's not really helping the kids. It's
Mhm.
actually using the
Mhm.
kids to make money of them and throw them like instead of making the parents be responsible. Okay, is it money you need? Here you go. Is it education you need? Here you go. Is it what is it you need? Have
Or
they even
Yeah,
said
teach
that
them
to
to
you?
co-parent.
Have
Yeah.
they even sat there
Mental
and
health.
asked you like, what is it you need so you can actually take care of your kids comfortably and instead of giving another person 5,000 per child? Imagine if they gave you 5,000, you would have raised you children happily without have to
Or
go
even
and hassle.
if they don't give
For
the
them.
parent the money, right? Because I know people are going to shine and say, oh, well, if they gave a parent $5,000, blah, blah, right? Okay. They don't have to give a parent the money. They can always say, hey, take your kid here and they get $500 of clothes. Take your kid
Yeah.
here, they get
Yeah, for them,
$200 in
just-
shoes
yeah,
specifically for
yeah.
them. Take your kid
That's what I
here
mean.
and they got
Yeah.
free admission to the
Yes.
movie. They got free admission to the bowling alley.
Yes.
We're paying the dues for their sports.
Yes.
We're buying their sports
Yes.
equipment. But
So
there's
they're not
nothing
left
in place
behind.
doing that.
Yeah.
Because if they did that, then parents and kids would bridge the gap. But then if they
Yes.
did that, their system would crumble.
No,
right?
they wouldn't. The European
Except for
system
the
is
foul
like that.
parents. Except for the foul parents, they would still have
Yeah, but then you
get
wouldn't need
action
the
with the
foster.
kids. But yeah, you would.
That's what I'm saying.
you
But
would have
why
so many
would we
parents
need
doing
foster?
good.
If we parents are
Yeah.
taking care of, why wouldn't we need foster family? In fact, the foster
then that-
family
that's
has
And
to
that's
be
a trillion.
minimized.
Look, we're going
Minimize.
beyond millions. We're
Yeah.
going beyond billions. That's $1 trillion industry a year. The government will never let that go.
But that's not fair on our kids. That means our kids are paying for it with
That
their
means-
blood and with
That
their
means
life.
our kids are pawns.
Yeah, that's
That's
what I'm
exactly
saying. We
what-
gotta stop. As a mothers, honestly, because I lived in Europe, where I mean they have CVPS and foster, but the taxpayers' money comes directly to the parents and the mothers, the childrens, and the elderly.
Oh wow.
It doesn't go to all these people, non-profit, even the CPS are government. Even the
not
law, the
here.
court is government. You don't have a private lawyer. You see what I- So in that way, you are taken care of as a human being. You're not being used. You see, especially you kids. When it's private, they're only worrying about their money. They're not worrying about a human life,
True.
our kids' life.
That's
They're
true.
worried about their own family life,
Yeah.
where they're gonna get that money and support their kids' life.
Yeah.
So the whole system, the European system works like that. You go to Sweden, if you are like a mother, you have 3 kids, they give you 4-bedroom home. If you don't have somebody who can, I swear to God, this is the truth.
Man, we
You
never
go to
got
England,
to
especially women and children are taken care of. I am the witness. When I had my
wanna
my
go.
child, I wasn't with that. Automatically, I was given 2-bedroom. Automatically for the food, nutrition, everything that the child needs, and they get
Zion.
paid. The child get paid for being
Man.
born.
Zion,
Not
what are
out
you
here.
doing here?
I know.
I thought I was getting. I mean, I came here for the better opportunity.
You
see what
lied.
this
America
is-
lied to you.
This
American opportunity. Now I brought my daughter here to get even a better opportunity because this is an opportunity land. We have to admit that even immigrants come from all over the world for the education and the opportunity, and that's why we have when we come here, we have to educate our kids so they can get into that opportunity. I mean, to be honest, America is the only country that has that huge opportunity for our kids if they do it the right way. But if they get caught right here and in the middle,
Yeah,
how do they get succeed?
exactly.
The youth. Now immigrants come here like me, we work hard and because we see the advantage, but our kids fall into that because the culture is different.
Yeah.
Now their kids are getting affected because they're having babies here now. You see? So, but the opportunity is here. This is the only country you can actually start like me from scratch, Queen Shiva, open my Ethiopia restaurant. Here I am talking to you. You see? So the opportunity is here. The education here, under the sun, everything in America is here. But the thing is, the system is not built
Yeah.
The system is built to make money and get that opportunity and help your family and your country somewhere out there.
Yeah.
That's why I think for me, especially reparation is so important, especially for the African American family, because if you had that generational wealth, you wouldn't be out there selling stuff. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You have a
True.
home waiting for you to inherit,
Yeah.
and then your kids, you can raise your kids comfortably. Now they wouldn't see what you have to do to,
Yeah,
that
we
is
could
the
grow
type of
fresh fruits and
thing.
vegetables with our land.
Yes.
You can't do that.
That's why I think America can invest. What they don't do is invest in our kids and in the family that is
Exactly.
underserved, underrepresented.
What America
That's
don't
not
do is
everywhere.
the best in Americans.
true,
We
because
invest
it's not
in
that
everybody
underserved,
else, but
yeah.
we do not. America don't take American dollars and put them back into American families.
The
They
kids,
just don't.
Yeah.
They don't. They don't. It
I mean,
just
if
don't
you have
happen.
it, it's okay. Like they say in Europe, the parents are good. They, the husband works, the woman works. They fine. They're not supporting those families, but you still get the basic like free education, free health care. But for those family who need some help, their hand is right there.
Not
see
in
what I mean?
America.
If you need some help,
I want to go to all the
so
places.
why,
Yeah.
why don't we get that? I mean,
Man. How do we get
If you
their
had that,
government people
imagine.
to talk to our government people who put that in place?
Yeah, and this European, they came here. That they know most of them are European who runs the government here, and they know what goes on in Europe. How people are really. I know they say socialism. No. You can still support the underserved, represented community. At the same time, if people like me want to hustle and get there, that has to be there too.
Yeah.
But the thing is that balance for the people who needs just the basic necessary
Yeah,
access to
there's not that balance
nutrition
here.
food, access to housing, access to education for our kids, better
Yeah.
education, access to healthcare. It's not there. Mental health right now. If there was healthcare access free, mental health wouldn't be pandemic in our youth.
That part.
That's true.
And the food they eat is affecting them. I'm always about food is your medicine, health is your wealth. But if our kids are eating McDonald's every day, out there, all
Man.
those junk food, mental health is going to be affected.
Or just look at the whole genetically modified
Yeah,
process.
and the
fake
government
fruits
is
and
not
vegetables that are
auditing
coming
them,
out.
like you say. The government is letting all the
Yeah, they're letting them. Companies like
sell whatever.
Monsanto,
Yeah.
like everybody's like mad at Russia for what's going on with Ukraine, but I love Putin because he told his whole entire country, if you grow genetically modified food, if you sell it,
That's what it
I will treat you like a terrorist.
because it's affecting.
And he said,
mental
everybody
health.
else in this country who wants to grow fruits and vegetables, I'll give you land to go grow for your family and your village or community.
Yes.
You can have the land. Like Putin is giving land for people to grow fruits and vegetables. But in America, we want to tell people, like, we're going to fine you if you grow this. We're going to fine you if you do this. Like, there's some farmers that are not allowed to grow seed wielding fruits and vegetables.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
But in other countries, they're pushing it. In America, if you look at what we feed our kids in school in America versus
shit,
what
yeah.
literally every
Don't
other
get me
country on the
started,
planet
yeah.
is feeding their kids, you would vomit. You would vomit when you understand what your kids are eating at school. My kids, when they were in public school for years, I didn't allow my kids to eat the school cafeteria food. Not at all. Not at all. Because it was always my stomach hurts, or you got diarrhea, or you're throwing up, or you got a fever for the day, or, and it's just too much. But it was me researching what they're putting in the kids' food and how it's coming. Like, they're pretty much getting the same slop that we're giving men in prison. Like, if you knew your kid was getting the same can of canned nasty beef that they're giving someone in prison, you would think twice before you send your kid to eat sloppy joes on Tuesday at the schoolhouse. But, and then it's like, what's that doing to the kids, I'm just scared for all of the kids who went through foster care and got heavily drugged.
Yeah.
Like, what's our country gonna look like literally 40 years from now?
Yeah.
When the CPS workers who kidnapped all these kids are old, sitting in their houses. Like, people don't even think like what the kids are plotting. Like, one time we drove by the family courthouse, and my son looked over at that place, looked at me, and he was like, Mom, when I get older, I'm for sure gonna get some homies that are down to go to prison and have guns, and I'm gonna get them to shoot that place. And I was like, wow. I said, wow. I said, what's going on here is just so wrong. I said, my son is young enough to verbally express himself. He's not old enough to have the mental maturity to understand what he's saying. He's old enough though to understand that he don't want to lose his freedom because he already lost it when they took him. And he understands that he needs to have friends that are willing to go to prison, and then he's going to get his needs met. And it's like, I just thought to myself, in 30 years, if my son doubled back and started shooting people, who would the government blame? Who would the FBI be coming to talk to? Me or the workers who abused them for years on end?
No, you would blame.
Yeah, they would be coming to me, but it's like at the end of the day, that question has to be posed. Who, my kid isn't talking about in 50 years getting friends to come shoot my house.
Yeah.
You know, he not talking about shooting his teacher house. So it's like, people don't even stop and think like we're in the system damaging these kids so bad that they are methodically thinking into the future how they want to come back and retaliate as grown-ass adults. And that is what shocked me and scared me the most about my kids being in this system. Is it's like, how far ahead is your thinking to revenge? You know, and how do I make sure that never happens? Like, how do I blow that bridge up and make sure your thoughts don't even get there again, you know? So, I mean, and it's simple things like when my kids talk about that, I tell them, hey, that's not okay. Don't talk like that. That's considered a terrorist threat. Then I break the law down to them. You're making terrorist threats. You're going to go to federal prison. You go to Guantanamo Bay. You'll have all your rights taken. Like, think about what you're saying. But when my son was little saying this stuff, I would just be like, Google, pull up notes, ask the therapist, what do I do when my son says this? Because it's like, at the end of the day, you know, he was in therapy and stuff. So I was just like, oh my God. But it's still, it makes me stop and think about all the kids and all the drugs and all the policies. And if nothing changes, what does that look like? You know what I mean? We're just going to have people that want to just break policy. Like, we're going to have a bunch of people storming a White House one day to say, or not a White House, but a CPS building to say enough is enough. It's like, it just, I don't know. But I think that's the only way that we'll ever see positive change is when they get audited, when someone in Congress holds them accountable, when someone starts to look at all the children that have died and hold the judges accountable. Like, Carlton Davis had 3-4 kids die in his courtroom in 1 year. That's not crazy to nobody. Like, you're a judge overseeing situations where kids are not dying at home, they're dying with the system. And nobody's doing nothing. So
nobody's bringing out. That's why I think, you know, for just to, you know, to talk about the solution. Like you were saying, we need to make the people accountable, and in order to do that, we gotta come together as a parent, as a mothers, say no, we need this change. This is how, and we gotta fight it together. If we don't do that, they're not going to take us serious because they're too busy as well themselves. Because
they're too busy on vacation. They done took vacation and got the secretary sitting there answering the phone. They got their emails on automatic reply. That says, I'll be out of the office till so and so.
They're in a box. They are in their own little, you know, box. So we got to get them out of box by coming together.
Together.
And making, you know.
Well, if you ladies have free time, we could go to the Capitol, because I've walked around there before knocking on doors about CPS. And when you go into the California State Capitol, and you go into the floor that deals with this, and you get to talking to the person at the counter about CPS is abusing my kids, how fast you'll see doors down that hallway
Yes,
shut.
of course. Yes.
They'll just get up and start shutting their doors like a domino effect.
Yeah.
It's like, why wouldn't you want to open your door and come out and see what this parent's talking about?
Yeah.
Every parent can't be crazy and delusional, and every parent has a right to be pissed
Yes.
that their kids were took. So when
Yeah.
people are like, oh, well, they're just pissed off that their kid was took, you're damn right.
Yeah.
They should be.
Yeah.
If they're not, then maybe let's look at that. Like, why aren't you mad your kid got took?
Yeah.
You know, but I think that's what we should do.
We
You know
have to
what?
do that.
Let's do something
Yes.
on Miss Mama Philly is going to be at the Capitol on September 25th.
Oh,
September 25th.
We'll be there for your event.
Yes, we're going to be there for an event of it's going to be a memorial of for people that have lost children,
Yeah.
and Mama Philly's going to be there. She's going to be helping to do the demonstration. But for any parent that's affected or impacted by issues with foster care, she'll be there to
Yep.
talk to you. She'll be there to orient you and maybe answer some questions and maybe direct you in a direction where you can get some help.
Yeah.
So come out.
So that will be
on
at the
September.
Capitol?
We're going to be at the
Yep.
west steps of the Capitol. So
What
that's
time?
it's going to be from 6 to 8, 9,
6 to 9?
6 to 8 or 9. Yeah.
No, 6 to 9 p.m. Yeah. Let's support, because
Yeah.
this is what I say. Parents, don't just sit there and wait until something happens to you.
Yeah.
Come and make noise.
Or don't think this can never happen to you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Right?
true.
My kids got
That's
in
true.
CPS because the teacher told my daughter right here when she was 8 years old, if you just say that your mom hit you,
Yeah.
we'll make it so you go live with your grandma. So then my daughter was like, well, my mom punched me, kicked me, she threw me down the stairs. I told the officer when he came out, I said, how did I punch her? I said, look at my fist.
Yeah.
If I'd have punched that little girl, she'd have a bruise 4 inches by 4 inches. You saying she got a little acorn bruise like this on her back, and you're asking me how it got there? She plays. I don't know. I don't dress her. You ask me how my 40-year-old got a bruise. I can tell you every mark on his body because I dress him.
And kids
But
like
it's
too,
like,
I mean.
yeah. But it's like, you know, it shouldn't be that simple for kids to just go to their teacher.
Yeah.
And because the school don't like the mom,
Yeah.
you know, they say this and then bam, the kids are took. But that's another reason why I will never send my kids back to public school ever. You couldn't pay me to put my
Because
kids in public
They say
school.
like, even if they say, like, you know, with my child, that happened to me too. Like, she was 8th or 9th grade and she was not doing her homework. And I was like, because she didn't know, I just touched her like this, you know, like, what did I do? And then she told the teacher, like, you know, if I don't do my homework, she was just saying to me, if I don't do my homework, my mom, you know, would not be happy with me. Oh, he asked her, does she hit you? Yeah, she, you know, hits me sometimes, you know, not like
And I got
hit her up. And begin to say whatever the CPA came the next day in my house. I'm like, come on, then, yeah, you can come in, you know. I'm like, they have to. They said, oh, she called me that they have to inform them, because even if the kids say anything about the
mandated
parents even touching
reporters.
them,
But you
Yeah.
know what? I mean, the system fails so many people. I don't know if you heard about the case in Stockton where the 7-year-old was beaten so badly by the father and the stepmother. Like they did horrible things to that child. They were just
This is
sentenced-
recent.
No, the incident didn't. I mean, when they found out that this was going on, was a couple of years back. But
okay.
they were just sentenced, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and they're only getting like 15 years. You know, for everything that they did to this
For
child.
torturing
Yeah.
and murdering their own kids. They
they-
should have got
yeah.
life.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And some of the things that they did, you know, one of the advocates called me and she said, Anita, she says, I can't believe. She says, they asked me to be in court because there was nobody to support the victim. And the things that they did to this child, she was just crying. She says, I can't believe.
yeah.
She said they took this child and they boiled water and put her feet in it. They did. She had so many bruises that the skin, the meat on her bones was rotten.
Wow.
That's
You
crazy.
see, where was the
And-
CPS?
Yeah,
CPS, and CPS was called,
Yeah.
and nothing. They never took the child.
That's what I'm saying. You
They
see how
found
they
the
pick and
child
choose?
wrapped up in blankets in the backseat of the
Wow.
car.
See, kids that
Wow.
should be took
They
don't
don't,
get took,
yeah.
and kids that don't need to be
Yeah.
took be the ones that get took.
Yeah,
That man,
see, there's something
wild.
wrong. That's why they need this
There's just
auditing
there's
stuff.
so much going on, and I never realized everything that just goes on, all the horrible things that we as humans are capable of doing to each other.
Yeah,
Until-
especially to children.
until I
I'm
lost
telling you,
my
go
son.
to
Oh,
real
yeah.
lifetime episodes, and when you see the stuff that other families went through with CPS, it'd be like, man, it's rough. That's why I said nobody's looking to all the parents that killed themselves. Nobody's looking to all the kids that killed themselves. Nobody is running statistics on that. Nobody's talking about those numbers. But it's like
Well, we'll be
there's so
now,
many
Yeah.
since we have you.
there's so many
Now
hard
we have
even
to
the
do
B,
that.
even the B couldn't do it though.
Yeah.
Even the Sacramento Bee, with all their power and all their money, they couldn't get the statistics on that. Like, who has those numbers? If you're
somebody has them.
Yeah, like if you're watching and you're into statistics and you're in college right now, ask your professor who is keeping track on the data for the children that go into foster care, get pregnant, and their babies get took, or they kill themselves, or their parents kill themselves solely because their visits were took. Because before people kill themselves, they're losing their shit. They're losing their shit publicly.
Yeah.
They're losing their shit privately. Trust me when I tell you, the family hears the pain. The friends hear the pain. The coworkers hear the pain. People who lose their kids and are starting to literally lose their shit, they're not quiet about it. Like, my ship was going down in burning flames. And the only thing that got my son back to me was my daughter going on her deathbed. When they had took her back, they took them all, even though none of them were with me. So when she got hurt, I looked at the CPS worker and I told Laura Saunders to her face, you just threw my junior, my firstborn, on her deathbed. I gave her an all gold Cadillac that she will never drive. You think if I take that all gold Cadillac and I go to that all gold bridge in Sacramento in the Capitol and I make a big enough boom that the FBI will come in and want to see why did I blow some shit up? Want to question me about what just happened in this room? She looked at me, looked at my mom, looked at my son, took my son from my mom, shuffled him over to me, put his hand in my hand, and said, when you leave here, you're going to leave with your son. I said, so that's the consolation prize, right? That's how you going to keep me at bay?
Yeah.
You're going to give me my son so that way when I walk out of here, I don't bring national attention to what just happened. I said, okay, no court, no, what do you call it? Like interview, right? Like you're not processing in my stable to have this little boy right now. Like I just committed a fucking I just gave you a terrorist threat, lady, since 9/11. You saying you're going to blow some shit up in America, that's the terrorist threat. You go to jail for that. You do not pass go. You do not collect $200. And when you get to jail, you don't get your lawyer because you're a terrorist. So I finally do some real live bad parent shit. And you give me my baby.
Wow.
So
you had to do that.
It's like every time I sit back and look at how I really got all my kids back, I tell everybody it took my daughter dying for them to give me my son back. And when they gave me my son back, you can't justify keeping her from me. You can't justify keeping my other daughter from me.
Yeah.
So I got my son, got the case closed out on him, got her, and then it took my daughter getting into so much trouble and going to the hospital and doing stuff and me constantly calling the police before they 86'd her. They gave her a no trespassing order and said she can't be at the children's receiving home no more. And so it's like, right after that newspaper stuff come out, none of my children are allowed at the children's receiving home. So like now, even when they're fighting and stuff and the police come out, CPS doesn't never show up because it's like I told him too, at the end of the day, I will die. I will die protecting my children. And if somebody comes to mess with my kids, talk about my kids, they're going to die if we're not talking about my daughter who died. Because if we're not talking about my daughter who died, if we're not talking about her, if we not investigating her death, if we not gonna hold the 2 adults responsible for her death, which is Alana Marie Chapman and William Jerome Evans, the second or third, then what we got to talk about my living babies for?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I told everybody, including SAC PD, everybody, we not talking about none of my kids and none of the shit that go on until we get to the bottom of this one.
Yeah.
And until we
Justice for her.
get to the bottom of it,
Yeah.
you better send the police to me. Because 2 things gonna happen. One person gonna leave in a hearse, one person gonna go to prison. And I'm not going to prison.
Yeah.
So it's really like 2 people gonna leave in a hearse.
Yeah.
And I've told SAC PD, y'all could shoot me and kill me like you did my baby daddy, because I'm not gonna ever accept nobody coming to want to talk to
Yeah.
me about my kids when you killed this one.
Yeah. They're making you accountable when they're not being accountable
Yeah.
for not protecting our kids.
Yeah. So now they don't want to do nothing. She went to court
So,
and the judge held her case up
yeah.
and said, I'm ordering a CPS investigation on you.
Yeah.
I said, oh, you think they're going to come talk to me? You think they're going to come talk to me about her?
Yeah.
Because I'm in this courtroom defending her and sticking up for her. That lady really did call CPS on me. You know what happened? When I called CPS to see who's the investigator. And is that bitch bad enough to come to me? They said, Ms. Clark, we don't have no open investigations on you. I said, so when a judge herself can't get CPS to come talk to me, that got to tell the people something. That got to tell the people something. So it's like, you know, that's why I feel like, you know, we need to get changed. So that's why I was saying we should, if you know a senator
Yeah.
and y'all willing
Yes,
to
we
go
do.
knock on doors,
I
we
am
need
willing to
go
go
start
knock.
knocking on doors in
I
the
will-
Capitol
I will
Yeah.
go
and
with
say,
you.
hey, we
Let's
need
go.
these people
Let's do
audited.
it.
And if you don't want
Yes,
to audit
let's do
them,
something.
I want to start getting verbal
Yes.
responses
Yes.
or email written responses from senators
Yeah.
in the state of California as to why you are not auditing this entity. Why won't you audit it when you know parents are having their children getting billed for child support and CPS workers are issuing foster care checks to parents who don't have them babies? That right there should have gotten audited.
Yeah.
So it's like we need to get that audited. We need to start looking into how much inventory and merchandise and money
is
Yes.
that
invested
these
in there.
receiving homes
Yeah.
and group homes are getting and then hoarding and holding. And yeah, all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So that's why we
I
gotta
think-
come together.
We need to, I think we need to have you back because there's
Yeah.
so many more things to talk about.
So many.
And
We're
you-
gonna update you now.
And now, but
We
we
have to
better have long
update.
time.
Yeah, we have to.
But for now, let's go and everyone that's listening, please come out and meet
Yes.
Miss Mama Philly on the 25th,
Yeah.
and then also support her business.
Yes.
I
What
know.
is your foundation? Do you have a
So
nonprofit or a
no, I
business?
don't have a nonprofit yet. I wanted to start one. I want to get something going for
So you see, that would be the nonprofit now we're gonna do.
Yeah,
In her name.
yeah.
I want to
to
get something
prevent
for
from
her
that,
though
yes.
and for Kendra
Yeah.
Mhm.
because they died too close. They were in the same courtroom.
Yeah.
She went out and protested with me for Kendra. So I wanna get something
Yeah.
in little
In their
Felicia's name and in
Yeah.
Kendra's name, but that like it's a bill, right?
Yeah.
Like how Megan's law became a law because
Yeah.
of what happened to Megan.
Yes.
You know, I
You can
want
create a
something.
law.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want something
name.
like that in
Yeah.
place. Like if a parent ever shows a judge text messages from a CPS worker, that CPS worker should be arrested on the spot immediately. There should be laws. Like I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to do.
Because we have to remember in every profession, not everybody's bad.
yeah,
But there is always the one that is really not doing, and they need to be accountable.
Right.
There are some, people who are doing their job accordingly in supporting the kids in the family. But the one who are not, they need to be accountable.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, that's no brainer.
yeah.
But we can't just say, oh, they are police or they social workers or they CPS, so they don't get accountable. Why?
Yeah, they all
But our
need to
kids
be.
get accountable. They're only 18, 19, 15, 16.
Yeah.
But these are adults. If once a human being is, even when Jesus died, he was 33. Once you are a 30-year-old and above, then you need to be accountable.
Yeah.
But when you are 20, 18, 17, you're supposed to be get the support,
You're
not
just a
just
kid.
not just family support, community support. The community is gone now in America. There's no such a thing, community, neighborhood. Now we have to rely on the government
Yeah.
instead of rely on each other. You know, when I was raised, it was the community. If
Yeah.
I do something wrong, the neighbor can beat me up.
Yeah.
I'm
That's how it was when I
That's how I
was
raised.
like I knew not to do stuff in front of the
Like, you
neighbors.
can't even-
I
Exactly.
knew
That's
that
what
would.
it was.
You.
Yeah.
That's the way it
If
was
I
when I
see
was
you
growing
ever
up.
doing this, no, even nobody, you have to look at it and you just pass.
No,
Because
now
can't
you
even do
got
nothing because
parents
the government is
telling
going to make
people,
you
Don't
accountable.
say nothing to my kid.
Yeah.
No, they need to say something to your kid. Clearly, somebody do.
We all have to watch out each other's
Yeah,
children. That is the only way. That's how we were created.
There's nothing more true now
Yeah,
that, it takes a village to raise
Yeah.
a child.
absolutely. It takes a community. We are community. Women, we need to be helping each other.
Yeah.
If I see your child, we have to look at it like that's my child too.
Yeah.
Because when my child is out there,
Yeah.
some parents are taking care of her
Yeah.
because she's not around me.
Mhm.
She's around somebody else's child, somebody's parent's child.
Yeah.
The same way other kids coming to me, my
And
kids,
then you care.
I have to care.
Yeah.
So we have to create that type of system. So even when they fail, we picking them up because we did that too. Nobody's perfect. I mean, we
There
did
should
go
be a
through.
group for that. Like I think the only one that's out there, and it's not even for like moms or young moms. I think it should be something specifically for young moms because as
Yeah,
an older mom, like
yeah.
I'm 41 and my son's 12, I have no problem asking people like
Yeah,
mentors,
Yeah.
community service
Yeah.
people, like, hey, dude, my son's cutting up. Like, what do I do? But when
When
the
the young
girls were
mothers,
little, I
yeah.
didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to say, hey, girl, does your kid do this when you tell him go to bed? Like, is that shit normal? Or
yeah.
go to the
Yeah,
other neighbor and be like,
yeah.
hey, girl, can you keep an eye on my son if you see him running
Yeah.
around? Like,
Yeah.
that community is got lost and broke, So I think that
We gotta
we
build
should
that.
probably try to build something or
Yes.
try to create some space for young
Yes.
moms to
Yes.
come, bring your kids,
Yeah,
and then let your kid go. Right?
Yeah.
We're all in this building, let your kid go.
yeah,
And we're all gonna watch your kid. We're all
Yeah.
gonna come up and talk to your kid because then you got kids too that grow up to be antisocial.
yeah.
Like I got this little social butterfly.
It's like
She got
me.
no problem if we put a table of
Yeah.
cake out there and all the kids line up. She got no problem be like, hey, cake, I need cake. You didn't give me no
yeah,
cake.
yeah. I'm like that too.
But then I got one kid that'll
Yeah,
just
who
come and
don't
sit
say-
by
yeah.
me and cry. Like my
Yeah.
middle daughter, she'll just look at me like,
Yeah,
and I'm like, what's wrong? Then I'm looking around. Oh, everyone got cake. Where's your cake?
yeah,
Do you want to go ask them?
yeah.
And it's like the looks just
Yeah.
keep more fearful, more fearful. It's like, little girl, speak up for yourself. Go around the other kids. But
Yeah.
so then it just I feel like if there were other parents around, older parents, because it was always an older parent that would be telling me something
Yeah.
like, let the
Yeah.
kids go, girl.
Yeah.
I think that would be
We
a
have
good
to
space.
be that parents.
Yeah.
Because our kids still gonna have kids. We gotta watch for those
Yeah.
too, because otherwise the beast is out there. Just like in the Bible, it says, the lion is around you.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel sometimes. I'm trying to get my kids out of that lion's mouth,
yeah.
because he's out there no matter what we do at home. Most of the time they're at school and they're out there in the world. So, that's why we believe the government, hopefully through policy, they will protect them. But
Yeah.
in fact,
It's doing
they're
the
protecting the
opposite.
business
Yeah.
people rather
Because
than.
that's what it is to them, is
rather
a
than our-
business.
our
The kids are
kids.
cash cows.
Yeah, we can't. We
So-
gotta change. Just like we gotta do something. Like Michelle Obama said, we gotta do something. So if we don't do something,
And that's why we're here.
yeah,
Yep.
they still
I'm
gonna
I'm
sit
excited
there.
for the
I'm not going-
25th.
I'm
Yeah,
not
I'm
going
we
in
gotta
excited.
have
I'm
I am
excited.
not going anywhere.
Please, just let them know how they can connect with
Oh.
you.
So my Instagram page is Phillies PHILLYZ no, excuse me. Let me start over. It's Phillies
worries, take your
Barbecue
time.
_ Cantina. So it's
Oh, it's
PHI.
it's up there, right?
Oh, hey,
Right
right
there.
there. PHILLYZ
Oh, we
BBQ
can't see it.
_ Cantina.
I don't think
Let's
we
see if I can put it.
So if you go on Instagram and you type PHILLYZ, my barbecue page and my taco page is gonna come up. So I'm also Phillies Tacos and More. That's the actual legal registered business is Phillies Tacos and More. But the barbecue page was my original one, so I'm mainly posting on that one a lot. Yeah, and then if you have questions or you just want to talk to somebody like you're fresh in the system, like your kid just got took and everyone thinks you're batshit crazy and nobody wants to listen to you or hear what happened in court and what's going on, like call me. My business number is 415-879-1816. If I don't answer, it'll say you've reached Phillies Tacos and More, blah, 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 blah. Don't leave a voicemail for a fast reply text message. That's if you want to book me for an event. But if you're just a regular person or it's other business, then leave a message. I do respond to text messages faster because I'm usually busy doing stuff and I can just shoot a little text and get back to what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm not a lawyer. I am not in no way, shape, or form giving anybody legal advice. I am simply a parent who went through hell and back, went through the ropes. I spent 7 years in the California State Law Library downtown. So I have done the footwork. I have truly educated myself when it comes to family matter issues. I'm also well versed in the law on a whole number of categories, from criminal to civil to probate to all of that. But again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just sharing information. So if you're not knowing where to get information, I can guide you and tell you, hey, you can go to this government building or this city building or that county building, and things of that nature. So yeah, if you've gone through it and you're a mom or a dad in the system, you're a parent or you're a grandparent and you're like, my grandkids got took. Like, I heard you saying your mom got her foster care license. Like, yeah, there's a thing called grandparents' rights. So grandparents have rights. So yeah, if you're a grandparent or a mom or a dad or you're a sibling and you're like, hey, my sibling is in foster care, I'm in foster care, and I haven't seen him in 6 months. No one's listening to me. No one's helping me. Call me and I will point you in the right direction to where when we start making phone calls, you get to see your peoples. Believe that.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you, Mama Philly, for being here
Thank
with
you
us.
for inviting me.
So
Thank you for
much.
having
We
me.
got
I
this.
appreciate it.
I
Let's
learned
do
so much
something.
today.
Let's do something. We gotta make
Yes.
her, in her, in her
In her
life.
memory.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
her memory, because everybody is like they are angels right now. She's an angel out there protecting those type of things don't happen to other kids,
Yeah.
like what happened to her. And no mother has to suffer like you do, because we
Exactly.
feel your pain. I mean, honestly, I haven't
do.
lost no child, but no mother, honestly, I mean, should not lose no child, especially like this unnecessarily. But we have to do something.
Yes.
We don't need to have to go through those kind of things, what you went through, to do something, to come and support September 25th.
Yes.
Come and show up
And thank you.
and together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you so
Yeah,
much
and for
for
being
sharing
there
too.
and
And participating. That's
yeah.
all. You're so beautiful.
And that's the
She's so
nuts,
tired.
right?
Look at her.
My son used to do this with me, and now he's older and he's over it. But he used to be out there,
Yeah.
no justice, no
No
peace.
peace,
Yeah.
Everything Devontae be saying, my son knew it on cue.
Yeah.
He would be out there
Yeah.
protesting with us, but now he's just, I don't want this to be his life,
Yeah.
and she's down for the fight because she's an adult now.
Yeah.
But I want my son to just be a kid, and not. I want him to be aware of what's going on, but I don't want him to always be boots on the ground, frontline soldier man. He gets to just be a kid. But Yeah, I be feeling for her because I'm like, dang, you go with me now and you sit for the talks and but she's seen a lot too, so that's why she comes. Like she's the one who told me my face was in the DA's office. She was like,
Oh,
Mom,
really? I'm gonna
stop
have to
your
go.
flipping photo
I
right
took
there.
a photo
I'm
first,
gonna-
And I
I
was
was
like, what?
took a photo.
I'm
I
gonna
was
have
like,
to
Like,
go.
why is my photo up there? And she's the one who did that, and then she's the one who took a photo. So when I was like, "Get your man down here right now," I ain't going nowhere. This is a violation of the law. I'm not a wanted fugitive. You can't hang my photo up in here with my full government name, my phone number, my address, and
Oh
a
my God,
paragraph
no
of
way.
information. Yeah, she took a photo. When the sergeant comes down, he looks and he's like, "What's this photo on the wall business?" The cop who put it up and took it down looks at me, looks at the wall where it was at, looks back and says, "What photo?" She lost it. She flipped. She said, "Are you flipping kidding me? I took a photo of it. It's right here." That dude did a micro inspection so quick, his eyes bugged out. And he brought him back in, and he's like, I don't see no photo up there." So when we walk out of there, she's like, "Mom, I believe you. I no longer think you're crazy." She's like, "I'm gonna be real, Mom. I thought you were crazy for real. Like,
They
shit
make
crazy,
them
Mom."
think that way.
She's like, "But now that I see
Mm.
the government is really messing with you." She was like, "Mom, I no longer think you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. When you say the government's messing with you, Mom, I believe you now. Because if I wasn't there, Mom, I I I wouldn't have believed this
Yeah.
story." And I was like, "Oh my God." She's
Thank
like,
God.
"But I was there and I took the
Exposed to
photo
it,
and I had a
yeah.
flashlight. Nah, my mom ain't tripping."
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm always
Mm.
thankful for her. Like
Yeah.
she's been my rock through
Yeah.
through everything, like helping me catheterize her, change her. Like she was a quadriplegic. So when I say that she really helped, we did full, like she didn't have a nurse. I was her nurse. They trained me to get her out of the hospital, and then yeah, we took care of her. So
Mm.
she's been through a lot with the system and then with talking about it. And then I asked her today too, which I'm very proud of her because I was like, okay, so we're gonna go do a podcast, we're gonna be on video, be on the internet, like the world could potentially see it, it's never gonna go away. What's off limits? And she was like, nothing.
Yeah.
I said,
We
damn,
have
girl,
to. We
the
have to do
whole
that.
story. She said,
Yeah.
yeah, Mom, I was abused and attacked in the system, and I'm not gonna not say it didn't happen. Like
Very
it's
brave
all
of
on
you.
the table. Everything they
Yeah.
did to us is on the table.
And she's speaking for a lot of people like
Yeah.
her who cannot speak. So you're gonna be changing lives.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
gonna be
It's
the
very,
voice
very
for
brave.
those
All
for
the
those
young girls who
girls
don't
and
know how to
boys.
come
Yeah.
forward, they're gonna be
Yeah.
like, man, Paulina,
Yeah.
that girl, she spoke up.
And don't
Yeah.
shush. Speak your heart. Speak your mind. One thing here, I tell another, opportunity we have is we can actively speak and put our that's the freedom, freedom of speech.
Yeah.
We have that, even though they try to oppress us,
Yeah.
but we do
We
have
still got
that.
it.
We do have that right. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
For pouring your heart
I
because
know.
this
It
is
hurts.
amazing
It
because
hurts.
you're speaking for a lot of mothers right now. And there's so many mothers the same way going through hell like you are, but they're afraid to speak.
Yeah.
But now, if we out there speaking, then these people would not be complacent.
Yeah.
So I'm just so grateful for you, and we're here for you.
Thank you.
Me and Mama Anita,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're ready
You know
to
what?
make a change in a good way,
Yeah.
People
in a positive way,
people are
with love.
intimidated by the system, but
Yeah.
just hearing your story and how brave you are and how you've ventured and journeyed through it, it gives me strength. So I imagine that.
Oh yeah,
It's giving
they're
our
afraid of
listeners
me.
strength,
I've
too.
had people who work for CPS come and tell me that my photo is in their building, and they had a meeting and was like, "This girl is a threat to CPS."
Wow.
And I was like, "You didn't speak up and say nothing?" Because I'm looking at this girl like, you be out here protesting in front of the DA's office
Yeah.
for what happened with Stephon Clark.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at her like, how you out here with this on the front line, but you really work for CPS and you really sitting in a room and they really said this about me. You didn't take a photo. You didn't start to secret record. You're not going to be a whistleblower. She was like, no, but what I did do was put in a 2-week notice. So she did eventually quit, but it's like quitting wasn't the solution. The solution was to secretly video record them and then call whistleblower hotline and be like, hey, yo, I'm sending y'all a video. You know, or raise your hand and speak up and be like, why are we putting people's mugshots up in here and telling them they're a threat to the entity known as CPS? So, you know, it just takes, but everybody ain't willing to speak up, and I get it.
And we have to be that village.
Yeah.
We have to.
One last shout out. One last shout
love.
out to Stevante for bringing us all together.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he
Shout
lost
out,
his
buddy.
brother the same way.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to lose nobody
No.
unnecessarily because the pain stays with the family forever. And they suffer, they walk. Why are a lot of family walking in pain and suffering, especially in our community, unnecessarily? So we gotta change it, even if we have to start tomorrow by showing up on September 25th. Just show up and support, you know. Then when we are a lot, then they'll be scared and change stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it's just me going there making noise and you going there making noise, Mama Anita just going there by herself making noise, they're not gonna do nothing. But if we come together and say,
And get just one.
they're
like
accountable.
200. Is it 200? There's like 200 California state senators, right?
Yeah.
I always thought there was just like one.
No, we have Senate. We'll bring the.
There's like 50, 100,
We'll find
200.
one
We
of them.
need just one of you to pick up your phone
Yeah.
and call California state auditors and say you want that entity audited. It's simple. It's not hard. It'll take 5 minutes of your time.
We will be knocking on door. The
Yeah.
senators. They're there. That's what they're supposed to do.
If you want that day, you want to get there a little early
Maybe
and knock
we'll
on a
go
couple
in-
doors.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
We can
Let's
do that.
do that. Let's do that.
Yeah.
We're ready for you. So
We coming, California State Capitol. Last time I was alone. I'm coming with 2 extra hands this time because we want this audit. We need this audit so that we can implement new policy and new change.
Yes.
And thank you very much
I want
to
my picture on
Stevante
the
for
wall.
putting us all together.
I want my picture on the wall.
And my sister from the Impact, because really her putting that event on the other day to bring all this moms together.
Leah, she really always
For-
fighting for
for,
sex trafficking.
For all the parents who had lost a kid. Because we
Yeah.
talked about this before, and I
Yes,
always was
amazing.
like, well, I just want to do something for the parents who lost their kids from CPS abuse. And it wasn't until she put us all in a room together. Like, I had to text her and tell her, like, sister, I didn't see your vision 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago. But when you got us all together and we all went up there and got to talk about our babies, it's like I didn't see what you saw for us until I was there.
Yeah.
I was like, and it really don't matter because we was all in there, multiple CPS deaths, overdoses, gun violence, you know, and it's
Community
crazy
violence,
but to just know that we were all hurting moms, right? Every day we hurting.
Yeah.
It don't go away.
It doesn't matter
It
how
don't.
you lost your child.
Yeah, it
That
doesn't
hurt is
matter.
with you
Yeah.
every single day,
Yeah.
every hour of the day.
But for us to be able to get together and know that we're not sharing that pain alone and that there's a lot of us right here in our own community, because there's not a group for that. There's no group that exists for
But
parents who
we're
have
here.
lost their
We're
kids.
here now. You know, come.
Yeah, but now a group does exist. And
Yeah.
although we were saying in the event to remember our children that, you know, this really is a messed up club we're a part of,
Yeah.
you know,
Nobody
and
wants
we
to be part of
don't want new members for this club, but it's gonna happen. It's life. You cannot fight the inevitable. And so we're just there as moms who know what it feels like, because, you know, you can sit with people and their heart goes out to us as a parent, but they don't know what it feels like. And when people say, well, I know you're hurting, you know, I buried my mom a couple years ago. The first time your animal died and your mom taught you about death, she told you one day she's gonna die. So you knew right then and there one day your parent's gonna die. Your parent never sit you down, planned your wedding, planned your graduation, and said, okay, baby, let's plan your funeral because you're gonna die before me. So when it happens, it's like
unnatural.
it's the things that people say to try to comfort you that it just it like pisses me off because it's like just say you share my hurt, like you know I'm hurting or something, right? But
Yeah.
don't compare my daughter's death to your grandma who lived a full ass life.
Yeah.
Or somebody
Like-
compared it to their dog. I'm like,
I don't know
yes,
what I would do if
Yes.
someone said that. I
it
would
hurts.
I
it
would
hurts,
lose it.
But this is different.
Oh
You
man.
get
more
over the hurt
intense.
of losing a dog. Like I lost a dog, and yeah, it hurt me. But the difference between losing my dog and losing my sister will never compare to being the same. Like
Or your dad.
I lost my dog, and it was a quick fix. Forgot about it after a couple years. I lost my sister and my dad, and it's like a never-ending hole,
Exactly.
Yeah.
or like rocks, just like carrying rocks on your shoulders all the time.
Thanks for sharing that because it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So like,
Because the siblings too, they go
Yeah.
through a lot. The sisters, look at Stefan. He's been fighting for his brother,
Yeah.
for Stefan Clark. He never stopped. Every
Yeah.
day,
He never
like
quit.
it's just
He-
it doesn't
he
go
started
away.
and
I've been
he's
around
kept
for a
going.
long time. It's the same.
Yeah.
From that time to this day, the pain is still the same.
Yeah.
And
I
how
feel
you
it.
same.
I
never
feel it.
changes.
It's not
So
like
the
my baby
family
dad
is
got
different.
murdered. Her dad got murdered. This June made it 10 years. And it feels like, sometimes it feels like, okay, it's been a few years, but then sometimes it's like I could look at her and I wish so bad I could call my childhood friend.
Yeah.
And then it's like it hits like a ton of bricks. Like, yeah, man, my baby daddy really got murdered by the police. Like, I really can't talk to that dude. And it feels like just yesterday that I lost my best friend, the father of my kids, my only planned pregnancy. Like, it hurts, but then I be feeling really hurt for her because I'm like I was sharing with the group, like I don't know what it's like to lose a parent. Both of my
Yeah.
parents are still in this world. My sibling is still in this world. And so it's like, damn, baby, you've already went through so much loss,
Yeah.
So I try to always keep her engaged with like art, music, food. She's also my business partner. So since she was 14 years old, she's been working with me and I started her out in the kitchen like as a dishwasher. Nobody can take it away from her and be like, oh, your mom gave you that business.
Yeah.
No, she started out as a dishwasher when I was working in a restaurant, and then I moved her to prep, and then deep fryer, and then griddle, and then I was like, okay, let's go run our business. And then at first she wouldn't do it. Like the bikers would come up because I do a lot of cooking for bikers and clubs and stuff like that, and she would be like, oh, I don't want to mess up their order. I don't want to cook it. So I told her one day, like, put the taco on there, let it burn. She was like, why? Just let it burn. I was like, is it burnt? She was like, yeah, it is burnt. I said, okay, take it off, throw it on the ground. Like, you're gonna
But
burn
learning.
something sooner or later.
Yeah.
You're gonna drop something sooner or later. Do it now, get the fear out the
That's
way,
right.
and move forward with the business.
Yeah.
And now she's bad. She's badass. She can get on the griddle and have the entire griddle filled with multiple different
Wow.
orders. Like my
That's
taco
beautiful.
business has had a large menu. Like we got tacos, quesadillas, chalupas, tortas,
Wow.
burritos, breakfast sandwiches, breakfast burritos. We got a sandwich, the little Philly named after my baby, which is not a Philly steak and cheese. It's roasted garlic sourdough, pan fried with carnitas in the middle,
Wow, sounds
Mexi blend cheese on one
good.
side, carnitas on the other, Koteca cheese crumble sprinkled on top. And so when she starts getting the different orders down there, and then it got to the point where she got like this much of the girl space, and she's like, okay, mama, I got a little space. I can take another order. And they'll be like, I want 2 quesadillas and 5 tacos. She's like, I thought you were going to get like 2 or 3 or 4 little tacos. You got to wait till like clear the griddle. So now I'm like,
She's natural now.
yeah, now she's
That's how they
natural.
are.
So now I'm like, man, if I die, girl, you got a whole business like
Yeah.
that you actually know how to run. That
Yeah.
comes with a list of clients. Like,
Mhm.
so I'm very proud of her. Very proud of
Aw.
her. She's a hard worker, strong businesswoman. So
Yeah.
Look
Keep
at
it
you,
up.
you're
Keep
young
it
age.
up. Yeah. And we will be behind you. You know, I'm a restaurant person too.
Yeah.
So I'm
I know
always,
we gotta go check out her restaurant.
yes. And
'Cause
I'm
I ain't
gonna
never
take
had
you
no
Oh, it's
cookie.
really
I
good.
had
You're gonna
Ethiopian
really good.
food
my
and I loved
It is
it.
really good.
All I could think was I want like because I could tell like it wasn't real authentic. And it just broke me because I was like, it's so good already. I want the real
Yeah.
thing.
Yes, you're coming. So we're gonna share. Even we can do like a fundraising, once
Oh,
the
yeah.
right here outside, we can do like a pop-up taco.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Great.
I actually
Yeah,
want to do
great.
Taco Tuesday here once I get,
I'm
you know.
so down.
Yeah,
I
so
am
we can
so
do
down.
fundraising.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And then the same time we can do awareness. So bring
Yeah.
all the mothers. So that's what we're planning. Me and Mama Gio. We have to come together
Yeah.
Yeah.
to make people accountable. That's the only way they'll listen to us. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do something.
Also for
That's what
you.
we are. Yeah.
Also for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. That's what we
Yeah.
work for.
Yeah.
We work for them now. We already
And then are
done.
you going
Yeah, I
to
know.
the
We're
25th?
already growing. We're
Yeah.
working for the youth and the generation to come now. Because that's our
So
future.
she'll be with us
That is
on the
our future.
25th. So if
Gotcha.
you're a youth, is it okay if the youth come
Yeah.
find you? So she'll be out there. So if you're a youth and you're in foster care, or you were, or you got a sibling, or you've lost a sibling, she's
come
there. She's got an open
Come.
heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on.
Thank you. So
Thank
just get
you.
involved, people, because we can't just expect the government or whatever or these big businesses to find our solution. We gotta come
Yeah.
together and make everybody accountable. The companies, they lobby. If they are the private companies, because
Yeah.
they create laws against because they know they can go in and lobby the politicians to create a law against our own children
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they are private companies.
Yeah.
Now they can afford to actually put the money in the pocket of all these politicians and all that.
Yeah.
Now the law is created for them. Now we can
Yeah.
reverse all that if we come together.
Yeah.
We gotta go and see what policy or what law they going, and then we can make a change.
Yeah.
We
That's
can
the key.
demand some change.
That's the
It's
key.
That's
gonna
what we're
start
gonna
when they
do.
get
Yeah.
audited. When they start,
That's
when
the
they
only way.
realize every dollar now has to be
Yeah.
accounted for.
Yeah.
They're
Why
looking to see where everything
They
went.
audit me every day auditing for small
Yeah.
businesses that I
But
do
they won't
feeding
have a
people
perspective.
vegetarian and vegan food. They audit me.
Vegetarian and vegan food. They said, "Oh,
I
she
get
healing
audited
people."
for that.
They said she don't want to kill people like Jack in the
That's
Box
what I'm
and Wendy's.
saying.
I
They're auditing
no,
you
no
over
offense
little
to them.
money.
I love Jack in the Box egg rolls. I will go to Panda Express and then go to Jack in the Box for them egg rolls to eat with my Panda Express. But no, y'all know that food's poisoning people.
One last thing. Bring pictures of your loved ones on the 25th.
Yes, everybody show up with what
Are-
you need to show
And
up.
chalk, is chalk going to be provided?
Yeah.
Isn't we chalk in the walk?
Yes. We're talking the
So will chalk be provided, or should
Yes.
we be bringing our own chalks?
Well, you can bring your own, but I plan to have some.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's provide it anyway.
So we'll be talking the walk.
Yeah.
So if you're an artist, come out,
Yeah.
support the cause.
Yeah.
I will be out there drawing some big old stuff for
Yeah.
Mama DJ Gio over here.
Miss
Yeah.
Artist.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm gonna draw some.
She's so
sweet.
talented.
So
You gotta
what
come
I
out
was
and
telling
see
her
her
was I
artwork.
want to draw a big old DJ booth with big old
Yeah.
speakers,
Oh,
and then
wow.
draw like how I got this music strip.
Yeah.
Draw that coming out of there for all the parents who
Yeah.
are gonna show up, or families, or friends, or loved ones, and they're like, I don't know how to draw, girl. I don't even know how to color in the lines.
Yeah.
Like I don't have this in me. I want to make that musical note strip coming out of
Yes.
Gio's
Oh,
DJ booth,
Yeah.
so that they can put. There's gonna be a music note with wings,
Yeah.
and they can write their loved one's name on the
Oh,
chalk in there. Like I think that would be really cool.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah,
That is gonna
definitely.
be
Let's,
Yeah.
if you guys have a flyer, share it with me so I
Okay.
can share it with my
Okay.
social media as
Okay.
well, and then we can share it with private so people can show up.
Okay.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
listening to us. But this is an amazing discussion, and we gotta keep it going.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
gotta keep
absolutely.
it
We
going. I don't
definitely
care
can
even
have
if
a
it's 5
follow-up.
hours. We're gonna be sitting here and talking. We will be talking.
Yeah, we're gonna
We're
have to
gonna-
do a follow up about
Oh,
knocking
I
on the
know.
senator's
Yeah,
door,
I
that's what we're
know.
gonna do.
and we're gonna videotape that
That's
too.
right. That's
this
right.
their podcast camera?
Yes.
We can take that in there and
Yes.
videotape their natural responses, so the people who voted them in the house
Yes,
know how they treating us outside the house.
that's right.
Right.
That's right. That's the
Right.
only way.
Yeah.
We gotta do what we gotta do to protect our kids and
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
You're a warrior.
Yes.
Thank you. So are you.
And keep
so
up
are
doing what you
you.
guys do. We really
And you
appreciate
too.
you.
Because
Yeah.
it's this technology that
time.
could get it
Yeah.
all out there, and they can hear your story and hear my story
Yeah.
and know
And
your
we're gonna
son and
keep
know
it
my
coming.
daughter.
We're gonna
Yes,
keep
we
it
keep it
coming
coming.
until they get tired of us. Every mother.
And when
we
y'all
get-
get tired, we
Yeah.
still coming. Because
Yeah.
it's like my Facebook
Yeah.
page says
Yeah.
that they won't let me access no more.
Yeah.
Until CBS, CNN,
Yeah.
ABC, and all of them start reporting this, I'm not going to stop talking
Yeah,
about it.
Exactly.
We're
When
gonna
they
keep on
start
talking.
reporting it and breaking the stories, then
Yeah.
I'll shut up. Because
Yeah.
then I'll know, hey, it's something's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, nothing happening. So, yeah, we're going to keep talking about
yeah,
it.
we're gonna keep on voicing. That's why Zion Utopia Media is really the voice of the community, because I don't feel like our voice is heard, like you say, in the main, which was supposed to be. This is a main story, but they don't
Yeah.
talk about it.
Exactly.
So this is the only way we can actually talk about our community, what we go through as people, as a human being.
Yeah.
So yeah, so keep on listening, keep on following us, keep on watching, keep on showing up. Because if we don't show up, nothing is this politician. They're just gonna sit there as if nothing is happening.
And politicians, talk to your politician friends. When
Yeah.
y'all going out to dinner,
They're
why
not
are
all
you guys
bad.
not discussing these issues? Why isn't nobody questioning their politician friend like, hey, did you call in that audit yet, Jim Bob? No, Sally. Well, why not,
Yeah.
Sally and
Make
Jim
yourself
Bob
up.
and Susan? Why y'all ain't asking each other why y'all ain't looking into this? Because everybody should care about the kids and where the money's going that's supposed to be for the kids, but it's going somewhere else. Everybody should care about it.
Absolutely.
And be
we'll
holding
be
each
watching.
other accountable.
Yes. And
Show her picture again.
Oh,
Yes.
my
She
baby's
is just so
picture.
beautiful. She's just such a beautiful soul. Beautiful, beautiful.
She's somewhere right now in
Good
heaven.
picture.
Yeah.
She in heaven.
She's in heaven
having
watching us
fun.
and helping us too.
Yes.
Yeah.
She'll be helping us. I'm serious. All these kids who lost their life, they're gonna be watching us
I feel like
and helping us. And
like God appoints people positions, right?
yeah,
And I feel like she's the one who gets to deal with the babies.
yeah,
Like I feel like when the babies are either getting hurt or something, like she's there, or when they're
She's the angel
leaving,
for
like
them.
she's getting them. Like I always be having these visions trying
Yeah.
to figure out like, what is she doing? Where's she at? Is she okay? What's happening? And then I always see that. And then they say that when a child leaves this world, their essence leaves a color. It's like this reddish, purplish, pinkish, faded in color. And not every night will the sun set and leave those colors in that pattern beret in the sky, but sometimes it does. And when it does, sometimes it'll be a little and it'll be subtle and it's real subtle. And then sometimes it's like the whole sky is lit up like that. And then when that happens, I'm just like, my heart hurts
yeah.
because I think, man, so many babies are going right now. My
Yeah.
daughter's busy today because I know she's the one there getting the babies.
Yeah.
Because she loved the kids. She loved the special kids. I would always tell her, go to school. I would tell all my kids, you go to school and you find a friend that don't have a friend and you be their friend. You look for that kid that's sitting alone at lunch and you go sit by them and you talk to them. Look for the kid that don't have no friends with them on the playground. Go be their friend.
Yeah.
So I know wherever she at, she's got all the special babies and all the babies.
And her spirit is here, no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah,
She's
I know.
with you and him.
I know every time I see butterflies, she's with me. I know every time the wind blows and the leaves aren't blowing, but I got that strong burst and I'm looking to the leaves like, are the leaves blowing?
Mm.
I know it's her hugging
Her
me.
spirit.
Yeah. And then when she can't get a butterfly for whatever reason, I kid you not, somebody, like one day I was really hurt and I was like, it's so cold. There's not going to be no butterflies. And I'm looking around, I'm looking up at the sky, and I'm like, man, little Philly, but I know you here with me, baby girl. And as soon as I said that, I look over, and a lady comes in, a black lady, because when us as black women
Yeah.
put on white or even brown, we stand out.
Yeah.
So this lady had this black lady, real tall, real beautiful, had an all white romper on. Like who even wears rompers anymore, right? All white romper on with freaking feet to the shoulders, butterflies all over it.
Wow.
I said, it gives me goosebumps. I said, go Philly, I know that's you. And the way the girl stood by my booth, they weren't at my booth,
Wow.
but she was so adjacent to my booth, and the way she just kept moving, I was like, I know that's you, little Felicia. So you want me to smile right now and not be so sad and down while I'm trying to run the cantina, and I'm in a weed show. I should be happy. You would want me to be happy. I'm like, that's why you sent that lady in with all those butterflies. So when I see stuff like that happens, or if I'm watching a movie and I'm like, man, I wish my daughter was here. I kid you not, a freaking butterfly will be on a picture, on a wall, in the scene. And I'm like, what are the odds? While I'm thinking of you, missing you so much in this movie that has nothing to do with butterflies. This person's in a house and it's a monarch butterfly on their freaking wall behind them. I'm like, okay, you're watching the movie with me. Cool.
We need to have an episode just on signs from our loved ones.
I know, because the stuff you were saying about the balloon, I'm still tripping on that. Makes me want to go blow some balloons up.
Absolutely
Be
true.
like, Philly, can you move these?
All right, thank you. So we'll keep it going. Like we said, we have so much to still talk and bring other parents and everybody, and we'll keep it going. And God is with her, God is with us, so we'll just have to keep it going and do His work. Yes.
Well, they
Now,
say
kids,
when you
men, in their men.
when you get pregnant, regardless if you have an abortion, regardless if your baby is born, regardless if they grow full term, the minute their heart sparked life inside of you, a chromosome from them left them and went into you. And anytime you get sick, anytime you get sick and your body starts to shut down and your natural enzymes start to fight, that's your baby's like chromosome that was left behind inside fighting for you. I watched a doctor give a lecture on this, and I was like, oh my God. Like, so I always think about that too. Like, you're still with me. Like, even when I birthed you out, the minute your heart sparked life inside of me, something came from you and stays with me even after I birthed you. And it fights for me. Like, that's what tripped me out. It's like when you get sick and your body starts fighting, those extra immunes and stuff, it's like coming from your kids. Yeah. So anytime you get sick and you start pulling through,
that's amazing.
You let your son know, I know you're fighting for me right now. They're fighting for us. Like that's deep. Like you can look it up too. Like Google it. I'm telling you, Google it. And because when I saw the doctor give that lecture, I was like, wow, that's deep. That's deep.
That is deep. Yeah, I didn't know that either.
So they're always,
thank you for sharing.
Always, our babies are always with us. And
Yes,
that's why they say that. That's why our moms probably told us that, right? Your mom always says, I'm always gonna be with you. And you'll always be with me. And it's scientifically true.
Yes. Perfect. And we'll leave you with that, that is a huge knowledge. Now we know they're always gonna be with us regardless. So thank you. We'll keep it going. Make sure you show up on the September 25th. And with love. Everything we do is with love, with passion, with care. We're not out there to hurt nobody except help our community in whatever way we can. And please join us on the 20th, September 25th. And we'll see you there. No excuses. Because we're going to show up, so everybody should show up too.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, thank you, ladies. I appreciate you.
What is this on? How do I see this?